Chapter 951. Ahem. Yun Jian coughed softly when she heard Ning Lanlan's words. However, before Yun Jian could say anything, another girl called out to Ning Lanlan. Lanlan, what are you whispering to this beautiful big sister behind my back? Just as she said that, a sweet-looking girl with big sparkling eyes walked over from the side. The girl put her arm around Ning Lanlan's shoulder and looked at Yun Jian with a grin. Hi, I'm an M.O., Lanlan's good friend from school. That's my younger sister. Anua. She's a little shy, don't mind her. The girl started introducing herself excitedly with her arm around Ning Lanlan's shoulder. In the end, the girl who called herself an M.O. even pointed at a young lady who looked exactly like an M.O. Yun Jian looked over. Her gaze stopped on an M.O. and paused for a moment before stopping at Anua who looked a little shy not far away. Yun Jian raised her brow. It was rare for her to be in the mood. She curled her lips and asked despite knowing the answer, twins. An M.O. and Anua's looks could be said to be carved from the same mold. Ordinary people would not be able to tell them apart at all. However, Yun Jian could tell an M.O. and Anua apart with just a glance. Yun Jian was also a top-notch investigator. She could even recognize Peter with his superb disguise back then. It was a piece of cake for her to tell the twins apart. The older sister, an M.O., was obviously more active. When she heard Yun Jian, she put her arm around Ning Lanlan's shoulder and said to Yun Jian, Yeah, I'm the older sister and she's the younger sister. Hee, what's your name, big sis? Mo's outspoken personality was rather straightforward. Yun Jian said with pursed lips. Yun Jian. An M.O. repeated Yun Jian's words. Then, she looked delighted. Your name is so nice. An M.O. stuck her tongue out playfully as she spoke. Is everyone here? Let's get ready to go. At this moment, a gentle-looking boy wearing a pair of rectangular glasses walked over from the side. The boy's looks were not bad, and his skin was moderate. All right, big ice cube, we got it. An M.O. stuck out her tongue and teased the boy. After an M.O. was done complaining, she turned around and introduced him to Yun Jian. His name is Hani Chen. He's the class monitor of our class. Don't be fooled by his gentle and elegant appearance. He's famous for having no sense of direction in our class. Last time he even got lost in the park. I really admire him. An M.O. grumbled. Yun Jian responded with a smile. Ning Lanlan's friends were all her classmates. Ning Lanlan said that she and her good friends often gathered together to go on spring excursions to all kinds of places. When Ning Lanlan borrowed salt from Qin Yiru at the Nilong River barbecue, she had gone with an M.O. and the others. At this moment, an M.O. and the others welcomed Yun Jian. Moreover, when they found out that Ning Lanlan and Yun Jian got to know each other because of that one time they borrowed salt, an M.O. and the others were dumbfounded. An M.O. even exaggerated that she would go to the Nilong River barbecue next time to borrow salt to bring a good friend back. Naturally, an M.O. was only joking. Just as everyone was about to leave, a shout came. Lan Lan. Hearing that the voice was calling Ning Lanlan turned around. However, when she turned around and saw the person before her, Ning Lanlan lowered her head shyly and said, Senior. Jiming? Chapter 952. Yun Jian did not like being stared at like that. She frowned and walked away discreetly. Shan Zihao had not seen Yun Jian for a while since the foreign language competition at Foreign Languages High School. Now that he saw her, he was overjoyed. Lan Lan. Xiao Jiming merely smiled at Ning Lanlan. Hi Yun Jian. Long time no see. Seeing Yun Jian walk away discreetly, Shan Zihao's heart was itching. Hence, he walked over to greet Yun Jian. He was getting more and more interested in Yun Jian. He had been attracted to Yun Jian ever since he saw her in school the last time. There was no girl who would not be attracted to his handsome face. This was the reason why Shan Zihao was so interested in Yun Jian. Also, Yun Jian gave him the feeling that she was too mysterious. When he was talking to Peter, the words that seemed to be unintelligible were attracting his attention. Shan Zihao was sure that he had never paid so much attention to a girl before. Hence, when he saw Yun Jian walking away, he rushed up to greet her. Oh yeah, why are you guys here? Ning Lanlan lifted her head slightly and glanced at Xiao Jiming. She put away her shy gaze and asked. Zihao dragged me here. He said we're going out to have fun. I didn't expect to see you guys here. Xiao Jiming reached out to touch his head. He seemed to be confused about the situation. Although Ning Lanlan liked Xiao Jiming a lot, she could not bring herself to like Shan Zihao. Especially when Shan Zihao seemed to be sizing up Yun Jian, Ning Lanlan disliked him even more. Ever since Ning Lanlan saw Ce the last time, she felt that Ce and Yun Jian were a perfect match. That feeling of wanting to bring the two of them together had completely sprouted. Perhaps Ning Lanlan was different from other girls. If other girls saw Ce, they would probably fight to get into Ce's good books. However, Ning Lanlan was different. Her heart was completely devoted to her senior Jiming. No matter how outstanding other men were, she did not want them. However, when she saw Ce and Yun Jian standing together that night, she felt that they were a perfect match. That was why Ning Lanlan wanted to matchmake them. Because at first glance, Yun Jian was the kind of person who didn't get aroused easily. How did you know we were here? Ning Lanlan shifted her attention to Shan Zihao. She did not hold back when she said those words. It was especially so when Shan Zihao's gaze shifted to Yun Jian. However, Ning Lanlan stood in front of Yun Jian, preventing Shan Zihao from looking at her. Although Ning Lanlan liked Xiao Jiming, she didn't like seeing Shan Zihao. Aren't we just passing by? Hee. As he spoke, Shan Zihao unconsciously shifted his gaze to Yun Jian. Of course, it was impossible that they were just passing by. He knew someone in Ning Lanlan's group. That person was neither Han Yichen nor the twins in Mo and in Nua. I said so. So what? Didn't you guys say we can't call anyone? At this moment, a very arrogant girl with her head held high and a little makeup on her face said in an annoyed tone. As she spoke, the girl even snorted. Ning Lanlan, you're the only one allowed to call your friends over? Can't I bring my own friends? The friend that the girl was referring to was probably Shan Zihao. The people who came today were all Ning Lanlan's classmates. There were about a dozen of them. Judging by the girl's tone, she must not be on good terms with Ning Lanlan. Chapter 953. As a matter of fact, the girl named Wan Xiao was very arrogant in class. Judging by her appearance alone, Wan Xiao had a lot of makeup on her face. It was obvious that she was a hooligan. That was the truth. Wan Xiao was a hooligan. Otherwise, how could she know Shan Zihao from the high school when she was just a junior high student? All right, let's stop talking. I think we should hurry to the zoo. I heard that the entrance fee for the zoo isn't cheap. Once we go in, we must play from morning to night and come out when it's closed. That's not a loss at all. An Mo stepped up to speak up when she saw that the situation had taken a turn for the worse. An Mo was not acquainted with the girl named Wan Xiao. Each trip was organized by their class monitor, Han Yichen. Of course, most of the students who came out to play were those who were closer to Ning Lanlan and an Mo. Initially, Wan Xiao was not going to come along, but for some reason, she suddenly told their class monitor that she wanted to come along. Han Yichen could not possibly reject her. He was the class monitor and he was the one who organized the students to go out on their own during the weekend. If he rejected Wan Xiao alone, would it not be too obvious that he was being ostracized? Therefore, no matter how much everyone disliked Wan Xiao, they could only think of ignoring her when they came out to play. Therefore, from the very beginning, Wan Xiao was alone and had no friends. Ning Lanlan wanted to scold Wan Xiao back, but since an Mo had spoken, she had no choice but to swallow her anger. Jian, let's go. Ignore some shameless people, humph. Ning Lanlan scoffed softly and pulled Yun Jian away. Xiao Jiming, who was standing on the spot, looked at Ning Lanlan's angry face and smiled faintly. He had always treated Ning Lanlan as his younger sister, so he usually took care of her. The meeting spot was not far from the zoo, so Yun Jian and her friends arrived in no time. There was still some distance to the zoo's entrance. Yun Jian and her friends were still moving forward. Ning Lanlan was holding Yun Jian's hand and pouting her cheeks. She looked like she was really angry about what had happened earlier. The zoo was located in the suburbs, near the mountains. Just as they passed by the foot of the mountain, Yun Jian heard a very soft conversation nearby. What the F***CK, the ticket to that D***MN zoo is so expensive. I'm not buying a ticket to go in. Isn't this cheating us of our money? Exactly. I heard that if we follow this mountain path, we can enter the zoo from the back of the mountain. Let's go from here. There's such a thing? Haha, hurry up. Up to this point, it was all male voices. Yun Jian frowned slightly. Then a weak female voice said, "Don't be like this. It's wrong to cheat. Get lost. Get lost. What do you know? If you want to leave, then come with us. If you don't want to leave, then go buy your own ticket." "Humph. You have too much money and nowhere to spend it. We don't have as much money as you do, ha." A furious male voice rang, accompanied by the sound of shoving. However, after a while, a girl ran out crying. This girl had 2 ponytails and looked like a pear blossom in the rain. She looked delicate and weak. Chapter 954. The girl ran very fast with her eyes closed. When she bumped into Ning Lon did not feel any pain. The girl's body was soft like a ball of soft cotton. The girl only reacted when she bumped into Ning Lon. She lifted her head to look at Ning Lon and rubbed her eyes. She said in fear, I am sorry." Ning Lon was a warm-hearted person. When she saw the girl's tear-stained face, she replied generously, "Don't worry, I'm sorry. It's fine. It's just a little impact. I can still take it." As she spoke, Ning Lon was curious why the girl was crying like that. As a girl, Ning Lon looked at her worriedly. She pursed her lips and asked after a while, "What's wrong? Do you need me to help you?" "I'm fine. Thank you." The girl wiped her tears. Then, she sobbed for a while and stopped. The girl took 2 shaky steps towards the zoo. Her thin and frail body looked like she was about to fall. Even Ning Lon felt sorry for her. She paused for a while. In the end, she could not help but ask, "Hey, are you going to the zoo too?" In truth, Ning Lon and the rest had heard the conversation before the girl rushed out from the side. Based on the girl's conversation with the other boys, they could guess what had happened to the girl. Although they had no idea what the girl's relationship with the boys was, they could guess based on the conversation earlier. The boys probably did not want to buy tickets to the zoo and wanted to play in the zoo. The girl felt that it was inappropriate, so she said it out loud. Everyone was well aware of the voices of the boys insulting the girls just now. Faced with Ning Lanlan's friendliness, the girl nodded in the end. Ning Lon was quite kind. Seeing that the girl was easy to get along with, she asked tentatively, "We're going to the zoo too. Do you want to come with us?" As she spoke, Ning Lon turned to glance at Yun Jian and winked at Yun Jian. "Me." The girl was surprised that Ning Lon would invite her. However, she reacted quickly. She pointed at herself carefully and asked, "Can I?" "Sure," Ning Lon said with a smile. "Thank you." The girl's mood improved slightly. Yun Jian stood aside and listened to the girl introduce herself to Ning Lon. Ning Lon introduced herself and Yun Jian as well. "Hello, you're so beautiful." The girl looked at Yun Jian and added a sentence from the bottom of her heart. Thank you." Yun Jian wiped her red lips and replied generously. Wan Xiao, who was standing at the side, reached out to grab the corner of her clothes. Her expression was ferocious. Especially when she saw Shan Zihao looking at Yun Jian with infatuation all the way, she was even more furious. One had to admit that Ning Lon was good at making friends. Soon, the girl became familiar with Ning Lon. The girl's name was Tang Qi-xian, and she was in a relationship with the boy who had just yelled at her to get lost. However, as time passed, Tang Qi-xuan found that she had more and more disputes with her boyfriend. Chapter 955. All right, we can buy tickets and go in now. We've been dawdling here for so long. Let's talk about it after we're in the zoo. A ticket costs 35 yuan. Let's fight to stay in the zoo for as long as we can. Heh. An MO stood up and said with a grin. The group stopped hesitating when they heard what an MO said. The price of a ticket to the zoo in 1999 was still considered reasonable. The standard of consumption back then was generally low. A 35 yuan ticket to the zoo was considered expensive in the low-income era of 1999. 35 yuan could be compared to 200 to 300 yuan now. That was why the boys just now wanted to enter the zoo from the back of the mountain. Phew, we're finally in. Ning Lon said with a chuckle after they paid for their tickets and entered the zoo. What animal are we going to see next? An MO interjected at this moment. Ask Jian. Jian, what animal do you want to see first? Ning Lon blinked and turned to look at Yun Jian, asking Yun Jian. Pandas, Yun Jian answered with oppressive lips. Pandas? Haha, great, I like it. Ning Lon Lon said, clapping her hands happily. Then, she said excitedly, pandas are our country's first-class protected animals and I've seen them in pictures before. They're super cute. Ning Lon Lon put her hands down and put on a yearning expression. In fact, Ning Lon Lon liked pandas very much too. Let's go. Yun Jian grinned. About half an hour later, Yun Jian and her friends went around the zoo. Ning Lon Lon and the others went to look for the toilet after taking a stroll. When Ning Lon Lon and her friends went to the washroom, only Yun Jian and a handful of her classmates were left standing. Yun Jian waited a distance away from the washroom. Yun Jian, why are you ignoring me? Shan Zihao came over just as Yun Jian was leaning against a willow tree with her arms crossed. Shan Zihao's question sounded like he was denouncing her. Yun Jian's long legs moved slightly. She leaned lazily against the tree and didn't even raise her head. She even closed her eyes. Yun Jian sneered lazily. Why should I care about you? These plain words touched Shan Zihao's heart. Once or twice, Shan Zihao thought that Yun Jian was playing hard to get with him. But he, Shan Zihao, had never failed to get a girl. Shan Zihao saw that Yun Jian was leaning against the willow tree lazily with her eyes closed when everyone else went to the washroom. Her rosy lips looked especially beautiful under the morning sun. Shan Zihao took a deep breath. Yun Jian, I like you. As Shan Zihao spoke, he strode towards Yun Jian and reached out his hand, wanting to kiss Yun Jian forcefully. Shan Zihao felt that many girls wouldn't be able to stand his posture. Especially those girls who had been kissed by him. Which one of them wasn't infatuated with him? He, Shan Zihao, didn't believe it. However, before Shan Zihao's hand could touch Yun Jian seemed to be conscious with her eyes closed. She turned around and dodged Shan Zihao's lecherous hand. Shan Zihao didn't expect Yun Jian to be able to dodge so easily with her eyes closed. By the time he reacted, he had already exerted his entire body's weight and crashed into the willow tree. With a loud bang, Shan Zihao's entire body crashed into the willow tree. He was still shocked that Yun Jian could dodge so quickly. Chapter 956. A normal girl would not say something so gory, but Yun Jian was never joking when she said it. Slamming into the willow tree, Shan Zihao sucked in a breath when he heard Yun Jian's words. Don't joke like that. I know you won't. Even so, Shan Zihao only treated what Yun Jian said as a joke. Who did not know how to spout nonsense? It was rare for girls to spit it out. Boys would often boast about how good they were to flaunt their abilities. Shan Zihao only saw Yun Jian as a girl who was competitive. Just as Shan Zihao turned around with his words, however, he saw a butterfly knife in Yun Jian's hand. Yun Jian's grip on the butterfly knife coupled with her cold expression. Shan Zihao tensed up from the threat. Yun Jian, this knife is a replica, isn't it? Where did this knife come from? Haha, it looks like a real knife. This toy looks like a real one, I can't even tell if it's real or fake. Shan Zihao was still naive enough to think that Yun Jian's knife was a toy knife. Yun Jian scoffed. At that moment, Ning Lon Lon and the others came out of the toilet. Jian, have you been waiting long? Heh. Ning Lon Lon came out with Tang Qixuan and an Mo. Yun Jian pressed her lips together and put the butterfly knife back into her pocket without a word. It was then that a person dressed as a cleaning lady ran over from afar, shouting as she ran. Something's wrong. Something's wrong. A few guys came in from the back of the mountain. Io, they came in from the back of the mountain and it's Tiger's Nest. Go save them. Someone's going to die. The cleaning lady was not saying this to the passers-by but to the zoo staff. Her intention was for the staff to run to save the people. They came in from the back of the mountain and they happened to fall into Tiger's Nest? Yun Jian furrowed her brows. There were all kinds of animals in the zoo. No matter whether they were dangerous or not, they could be seen in the zoo. In this zoo, the tiger was released in a tall and large enclosure. In the middle of the enclosure was a huge open-air pit where the tiger rested. At least the zoo here didn't keep tiger in an iron cage. But as long as they didn't fall into this pit, these tiger wouldn't be able to jump out of this huge pit. But after hearing what the cleaning lady said just now, at this moment, Tang Qixuan's heart-wrenching scream rang out. They fell into the tiger's nest? Tang Qixuan's face instantly turned pale. After Tang Qixuan finished speaking, She ran towards the tiger crater as if she had gone mad. Let's go take a look as well. Ning Lanlan's face turned pale in an instant, but she still suggested. As she spoke, Ning Lanlan led a group of people towards where Tang Qishuan was running. Inside the huge tiger crater, this bunch of tigers who had been caged in the zoo all day had yet to lose their wild nature. These young men who came in from the back of the mountain had no idea that this was the tiger's nest. They only realized it after they came in. However, when a tiger charged over, it was already too late to stop it. Ah! Miserable shrieks rang out. One or two of the unlucky young men who were targeted by the tiger were torn to shreds on the spot. When Yun Jian and the rest arrived, there were already many workers who were trying to save them. However, when they looked down into the huge crater of the tiger's nest from above, they could see that there were already people who had been torn to shreds by the tiger. Ah! When Tang Qishuan saw that her boyfriend was about to be attacked by a tiger, she shrieked and wanted to jump into the huge crater. Yun Jian reached out and grabbed her. I'll go. Yun Jian's eyes flickered. Then, without any hesitation, she jumped into the huge crater. Oh my God! Is this little girl looking for death? That's the tiger's nest. Someone trembled as he watched this scene from afar. Chapter 957. With a leap, Yun Jian leaped into the giant pit and landed steadily. The scene shocked everyone present and made Tang Qishuan's heart clench. No! Come back! This has nothing to do with you. Tang Qishuan was terrified, but when she saw Yun Jian jumping into the tiger's nest for her, she shuddered but still wanted to jump in to save Yun Jian. Tang Qishuan was scared, but she knew that this was her own business. She could not bear to leave her boyfriend, but Yun Jian had jumped in to save her. She could not harm Yun Jian. The giant pit was the tiger's nest where there were at least 8 to 9 adult tigers. Tang Qishuan was a very timid girl, but she did not want others to sacrifice themselves for her. However, just as Tang Qishuan was about to jump into the tiger's den, Ning Lanlan grabbed her from the side. Don't go either. You'll die if you go. I'll go save Jian Jian. Ning Lanlan frowned. She was actually shaking and her palms were sweating from fear. In spite of it, how could Ning Lanlan be willing to watch Yun Jian die? Although she had not known Yun Jian for long and they were not childhood friends, Ning Lanlan was the kind of person who would go through hell and high water for her once she acknowledged a friend. No, Sister Lanlan, this has nothing to do with you. I'll go myself. As she spoke, Tang Qishuan pushed Ning Lanlan away forcefully. It was then that Xiao Zhiming stopped both Tang Qishuan and Ning Lanlan. Stay here, both of you. Zihao and I will go save her. Xiao Zhiming then turned to call for Shan Zihao. Xiao Zhiming was different from other guys. Not only was he handsome, he did not like to show off like other guys. Xiao Zhiming was a real guy. At this moment, Xiao Zhiming was not trying to act cool in front of the girls. He just wanted to save someone. In spite of it, when Xiao Zhiming turned to call for Shan Zihao to go with him, he clearly saw Shan Zihao shuffling a few steps back. Zihao, we. Xiao Zhiming was stunned. He was about to call for his best friend to go down with him. Shan Zihao took 2 steps back in fear and interrupted Xiao Zhiming. Zhiming, down there. Our tiger. Tiger, they eat people. Someone's already been eaten. Besides, shouldn't the zoo save people themselves? All of this was an excuse. Xiao Zhiming's eyes darkened, but he did not turn back. Shan Zihao's behavior had disheartened him. Just as Xiao was about to jump down to save the girl, and Mo's terrified shriek was heard. Ah! Everyone's attention was diverted by Mo's shriek. When everyone turned their attention to her, they saw that Yun Jian was already entangled by a tiger. No, Jian Jian! Ning Lanlan cried out and dashed into the pit. 2 steps later, however, Ning Lanlan halted in shock. Everyone's eyes widened as they witnessed a horrifying scene when the giant tiger pounced on Yun Jian. Yun Jian took a step forward and swung the butterfly knife with both hands agilely. The moment the tiger leaped at her, she sidestepped it and swung the butterfly knife into the tiger's exposed abdomen at the same time. The stab was fast, accurate, and ruthless. If she had been a step slower, the person who would have been pounced on would have been Yun Jian. The tiger that was stabbed in the heart spilled blood on the spot and even spurted onto Yun Jian. Yun Jian merely blinked. She did not feel like she had killed a tiger at all. In spite of it, Ning Lanlan, Shan Zihao, and the others who were standing on top of the pit broke out in cold sweat. Chapter 958. Right before the tiger pounced on Yunjian, a lot of tourists around them cried out, "Hey! Oh my, this girl is done for. She's courting death. Who can she blame? It's good that she's dead. Serves her right for courting death." However, when Yunjian killed the tiger with a flip of her hand, the tourists' voices fell silent. Ning Lanlan was stupefied. Shan Zihao was stunned. Wan Xiao, who was very unfriendly towards Yunjian just now, was stunned. Han Yichen, Tang Qixuan, Xiao Zhiming, and the others were also completely dumbfounded. The moment the blood splattered, everyone present saw Yunjian's lips curl up into a smile. That smile was like the grim reaper from hell. It was as if she was the king of the jungle, a god who ruled over the animals. At that moment, everyone present could not believe their eyes. After all, Yunjian looked delicate and pretty. At first glance, she looked like a normal middle school girl. However, no one expected Yunjian to jump into Tiger's lair and claim that she was going to save him. She was able to stab a tiger to death with a single stab. How fast did one's hand speed have to be able to do this? Everyone at the scene was scared witless. However, the person who was the most frightened was still Shan Zihao. After all, what did Yunjian say to him in the beginning? If he dared to pester her again, she would turn him into a woman. No normal girl would say something like that. Hence, Shan Zihao did not take Yunjian's words seriously at all. Most importantly, Yunjian had waved the butterfly knife in front of him before. However, Shan Zihao did not take it seriously at that time. Shan Zihao even thought that the butterfly knife Yunjian was playing with was just a toy knife. But now, Yunjian had used this very butterfly knife to stab Tiger in the heart. Yunjian had stabbed Tiger to death. If this saber was fake, how could it have such a sharp blade? When Shan Zihao thought about it, he felt his whole body trembling. Ah, she! Wan Xiao, who had scoffed at Yunjian earlier, saw Yunjian's actions and said, "She," 3 times in a row. Wan Xiao was so scared that he started to tremble. Even his bones started to tremble. However, at this moment, Yunjian had already run to the other side with the butterfly knife. "Little girl, it's dangerous. Go back." A worker in the huge pit saw Yunjian running in that direction and shouted in alarm. This staff member had just cooperated with his companions in an attempt to capture Tiger, who was attacking people. He saw Yunjian running towards him. Because the worker standing under the giant pit didn't see Yunjian killing Tiger with a single slash, he simply thought that Yunjian was an eyesore, so he didn't hold back when he shouted. However, the moment this group of workers frowned and saw Yunjian from the corner of their eyes, they saw a figure flash past. A few workers were facing the tiger. They were holding stun batons that were specially used to capture tigers and were eyeing the tiger covetously. The tiger had already bitten a few people who had just climbed in from the back of the mountain. It was obvious that one of them did not have long to live. Because his intestines were hanging out from the bite, he looked bloody and lifeless. The workers did not dare to make a move for a long time. After all, the few in front of them were tiger. However, when they came back to their senses, they saw Yunjian rushing towards the tiger with the butterfly knife. Chapter 959. If something happened to the passengers here, the staff would be responsible. Moreover, these young men who climbed over the wall from the back of the mountain were already in trouble. If they didn't rescue them and send them to the hospital, it might not be just one person who would die. Therefore, Yunjian's appearance made these staff members afraid that something would happen to her. More importantly, they felt that Yunjian would cause trouble. Just now, when Yunjian killed the tiger, the people on the viewing platform clearly saw it. However, the staff members standing in the huge pit were like frogs at the bottom of a well. They couldn't see the scene of Yunjian killing the tiger at all. After all, this huge pit covered a large area. There were some large rocks around it. It wasn't easy to see Yunjian's position from there. This little girl, is she here to cause trouble? One of the staff members frowned. Then, he held the stun baton and chased after Yunjian. At this moment, Yunjian was facing 6 or 7 tiger. These tigers seemed to be in a group. When the young men climbed over the mountain from the back of the mountain, these tiger rushed at them together. When the staff members found out about the tiger biting people and came down, the tiger had already bitten off most of the young men. Of course, the most serious one was the young man whose intestines were hanging out from his mouth. Because they were facing tiger, Even if a few staff members came down to save people, they would definitely save people while protecting their own lives. Therefore, even if these tiger bit people to death on the spot, if they were to be put in danger, these staff members wouldn't rush up without thinking. Because these young men broke into this place by themselves, and they weren't relatives or friends, if these staff members couldn't even guarantee their own safety, how could they risk their lives for someone who had nothing to do with them? As for the staff member who saw Yun Jian running over there, although he said that Yun Jian was here to cause trouble and ran towards Yun Jian with a stun baton, although he was scolding Yun Jian for running over there, in fact, he was doing it for Yun Jian's sake. If this staff member was really just scolding Yun Jian for being a hindrance, he wouldn't have chased after Yun Jian to help her when she was facing 6 or 7 tiger alone. Just as the employee took 2 steps toward her, however, Yun Jian stopped abruptly. Seeing this, the tiger rushed towards Yun Jian as fast as they could. Not only did Yun Jian stop, but she also folded the butterfly knife easily under everyone's gaze and stuffed it back into her pocket. Was she going to fight the 7 to 8 tiger empty-handed? These were real tiger beasts. Everyone present shuddered in shock from Yun Jian's action. Oh my god! Is she going to fight the tiger empty-handed? Does she think she's Wusong? This young lady is crazy. She must be seriously ill. Some of the tourists standing on top of the huge pit had never seen such a strange thing, so they all shouted out in surprise. When encountering such a bizarre situation, as long as it wasn't targeted at them, most people would love to join in the fun and watch the drama unfold. Jian Jian. Ning Lanlan was drenched in cold sweat as she clenched her fists tightly. Just as the tiger pounced on Yun Jian like they were going to tear Yun Jian into pieces, Ning Lanlan's expression changed. Chapter 960. Yun Jian had once ventured into the Amazon forest alone, where venomous snakes and ferocious beasts lurked. She had once single-handedly slaughtered a pack of wild wolves. Why was Yun Jian codenamed Slaying God? Slaying was her blood and she wanted to become a god. She was someone who had stepped on countless lives and survived by licking the blood from the tip of a blade. She had once fought alone and killed countless high-level secret agents and assassins. Although the 7 to 8 ferocious tigers in front of her looked terrifying, if she, Slaying God, trembled in fear at the sight of these beasts, how could she call herself Slaying God? Slaying God was not afraid of anything. Even if a bullet had pierced through her body, she had stubbornly survived. She was not afraid of the few ferocious tigers in front of her. Oh woo! The leading tiger was shocked by Yun Jian's murderous aura. It paused violently and howled. The tiger's brutality was not to be underestimated. It would never forgive an outsider who had mistakenly entered its territory. Even if this tiger had been reared in the zoo for a while, its wild nature could not be ignored. After a pause, the leading tiger howled again. Then, it seemed to be giving orders to the few tigers behind it. The few tigers understood the order and charged toward Yun Jian together with the leading tiger. The real battle had just begun. Yun Jian smirked. She wiped her red lips and revealed an eerie smile. In the next second, everyone saw Yun Jian's silhouette flash. She charged toward the few tiger at lightning speed. A woo! The tiger howled and ran toward Yun Jian enthusiastically. Until Yun Jian and the few tiger were right in front of them. Yun Jian was running when she suddenly leaped and stomped on the head of the first tiger. Seeing this, the other tiger turned around and tried to save the tiger whose head had been stepped on by Yun Jian. The tiger whose head had been stepped on by Yun Jian struggled with all its might. It even lifted its head and tried to bite Yun Jian's anklet. However, the moment the tiger lifted its head, Yun Jian did a flip and landed on the ground. She reached out and grabbed the tiger's hind leg. In the next second, she lifted the tiger up and flung it out as fast as she could. After more than half a year of training after her rebirth, Yun Jian's physical fitness was now very outstanding. Although the tiger was a tiger, Yun Jian flung it with a flip of her hand. Bang! After the first tiger was thrown out, it fell heavily to the ground. The tiger didn't react for a while. The few workers were completely dumbfounded. The worker who had scolded Yun Jian earlier was smarter. He quickly ran over to the tiger and used the stun baton to knock it out. Yun Jian used the same method to avoid the tiger's attack. At the same time, she grabbed the tiger's hind leg and flung the tiger out. The tiger was flung to the ground one by one. It took a long time for them to regain their senses. The workers were scared silly, but they reacted quickly and knocked the tiger unconscious with the stun baton one after another. The people standing on the huge pit were stunned. especially Shan Ziheo's face. It couldn't be described as ugly. It was only when Yun Jian had flung out the last tiger and the workers had knocked out the last tiger that she revealed a smile. At this moment, small beads of sweat had appeared on Yun Jian's forehead. However, when the morning sun shone on the girl's body, it made her look exceptionally delicate and pretty. This was completely different from when she had stabbed the tiger to death. Chapter 961. When all the tigers were knocked out, the staff locked them up in metal cages before sending the rescued lads and the lad whose intestines were bitten to the hospital. The incident was not over yet, but even so, it had nothing to do with Yun Jian anymore. Tang Qixuan had already followed them to the hospital in tears. Before she left, she asked for Yun Jian's contact number, saying that she had to thank Yun Jian no matter what. Yun Jian did not mind. After sending Tang Qixuan and the others away, Yun Jian met up with Ning Lanlan and the others. "Jian Jian, are you okay?" Ning Lanlan was nearly scared to death by Yun Jian. She rushed up to hold Yun Jian's hand and checked it carefully, only letting go when she was sure that Yun Jian was fine. "Phew, I was scared to death just now." Ning Lanlan sighed in relief. "Are you guys still going with her? She just killed Tiger. That's a living life." Wan Xiao complained at this time. "Wan Xiao, shut up. My Jian Jian is doing what's right." Ning Lanlan was pissed off when she heard Wan Xiao's voice, especially when she had to say something like that to Yun Jian under such circumstances. "You!" Wan Xiao was gagged, but she spoke up indignantly. Before Wan Xiao could finish, however, Han Yichen cut her off. "All right, that's enough. It's fine as long as she's fine. Let's keep going." Even when something like this happened, it did not dampen the group's mood to have fun. Han Yichen was the class leader after all, so his words carried some charisma. At least, Wan Xiao kept her mouth shut when she heard him. Just as Yun Jian was about to leave with the group, a man's voice came from behind. "Young lady, hold on." Yun Jian remembered the voice. It was the staff member who scolded her for being a troublemaker in the pit not too long ago, but was kind enough to rush up to save her with a stun baton. The good and bad of a person was not determined by their appearance but their heart. Those who spoke harshly were not necessarily bad. Just like this staff member who called out to Yun Jian. His words were harsh, but compared to the other staff members, he was the only one who rushed up to help when he saw that Yun Jian was in danger. Yun Jian turned to look at him. "Young lady, thank you for just now. If it weren't for you, we wouldn't have been able to save them so quickly." The man scratched his head and smiled at Yun Jian. Yun Jian smiled and replied, "You're welcome." Have fun today then." The man told Yun Jian and the others with a grin. Yun Jian nodded and continued to play with Ning Lanlan and the others after that. The zoo, Yun and Yun, Yun and Yun and Yun, Yun and Yun. They strolled from morning to afternoon, and finally, they sat down in a place to enjoy the cool air. "I'm going to the washroom." Wan Xiao stood up with a somber expression. Before she left, she gave Shan Ziheo a shove with an expression that said, "I'll tell on you if you don't come." No one saw the small gesture but Yun Jian did. Yun Jian pressed her lips together but did not pay much attention to it. After a while, Shan Ziheo got up and left using the excuse of going to the washroom as well. "You guys stay here for a while. I have something to talk to Jian Jian about." Suddenly remembering something, Ning Lanlan went over to pull Yun Jian's hand and scooted into the forest beside them. She wanted to ask Yun Jian about some of the personal things between girls. Hence, Ning Lanlan pulled Yun Jian to a spot far away from the rest of the group. "Jian Jian, Ning Lanlan was about to speak. A faintly discernible moan could be heard. Yun Jian's gaze darkened while Ning Lanlan was startled. Nevertheless, her curiosity got the better of her. When Ning Lanlan pulled Yun Jian over and saw the two people doing unspeakable things, her eyes nearly popped out of their sockets from the shock. Chapter 962. No one suspected anything when Wan Xiao and Shan Ziheo left just now. After all, both of them were indeed walking in the direction of the toilet. However, they did not return even after a long time. However, because everyone had walked to many places and seen many animals in the morning and afternoon, their legs were extremely sore and numb. One could even say that their backs were aching. Hence, now that they finally sat down to rest, no one was willing to stand up and continue playing. Hence, It did not matter if it took a little longer. Everyone could afford to wait. However, Ning Lanlan and Yun Jian did not expect Wan Xiao and Shan Zihao to be hiding in the woods and doing such a thing. There were many trees in the woods here. If there were people standing in the woods, they would not be able to see them from the roadside. Naturally, this made it convenient for Wan Xiao and Shan Zihao, a pair of thirsty man and woman. Wan Xiao and Shan Zihao were doing such unspeakable things with their backs facing Ning Lanlan and Yun Jian. Wan Xiao was wearing a miniskirt today, so it was convenient for her. However, Ning Lanlan could never have imagined that she would witness such a hot scene when she only wanted to pull Yun Jian out for a private conversation. It was no wonder she did not inform Shan Zihao. Shan Zihao knew that they were coming to the zoo today. Why would Wan Xiao, who had never participated in any of their activities, make an exception to join them today? Ning Lanlan nearly shrieked when she witnessed the scene, but Yun Jian covered her mouth in the end. Leaning against a big tree, she could only hide herself with the help of the tree. Zihao, do you like that girl? Girl? Wan Xiao panted and asked Shan Zihao. Her? I'll get my hands on her sooner or later. Shan Zihao banged Wan Xiao with all his might. His eyes were bloodshot. Ever since he saw Yun Jian, he realized that he was infatuated with Yun Jian. He was so in love with her that he could not be saved. Especially when he saw Yun Jian's nimble movements just now, his admiration for Yun Jian deepened. Looking at Yun Jian's beautiful body shuttling through the group of tiger, Shan Zihao had an impulse to immediately press her down. And just now, after Yun Jian killed the first tiger, why did she put away her knife and fight with the tiger empty-handed? She even threw the tiger out so that the staff could knock it out and lock it in the iron cage? That was because it was impossible for Yun Jian to kill all the tiger in this place. After all, this was a zoo. Killing in a zoo was illegal. More importantly, if there were no tiger in the zoo, would it still be called a zoo? From this point, Shan Zihao felt that Yun Jian was a very attentive girl. This was something that he greatly appreciated. Thinking about Yun Jian's beautiful body, Shan Zihao pounded Wan Xiao again and again. Wan Xiao liked him, and he was a normal man. Of course, he had a normal way of venting. However, even at this moment, he could not forget about Yun Jian. As Shan Zihao thought about it, he reached his hand into Wan Xiao's chest and grabbed it hard. He tossed and turned. Yun Jian and Ning Lanlan heard what they were doing from afar. Especially Ning Lanlan, she covered her mouth and left the little forest with Yun Jian in horror. Hey, you guys are done whispering to each other and back so soon? An Mo asked with a grin when she saw Yun Jian and Ning Lanlan coming out of the little forest so quickly. Yun Jian looked as if nothing had happened. Ning Lanlan, on the other hand, was clearly frightened. Chapter 963. Xiao Zhiming went over to ask when he saw Ning Lanlan's odd expression. Senior Zhiming, I'm fine. Ning Lanlan did not even look at Xiao Zhiming this time as she dragged Yun Jian away in a daze. Ning Lanlan was not bothered by what happened just now. She was usually frivolous, but what happened just now was hard for her to accept. Shan Zihao usually acted like he had no other choice but to have Yun Jian. Ning Lanlan did not like Shan Zihao as a person, but it was not to the extent that she detested him. However, Shan Zihao and Wan Xiao's behavior just now had completely overturned Ning Lanlan's understanding, and she could not accept it all of a sudden. How could people be like this? Shan Zihao said that he liked Yun Jian but with Wan Xiao. Most importantly, Shan Zihao was her senior Zhiming's best friend. Ning Lanlan did not know how to tell her senior Zhiming about this. Xiao Zhiming's gaze dimmed when he saw Ning Lanlan pulling Yun Jian away. He was a gentle and refined person, but he was actually a more observant person. His mind spun and he immediately thought of why Shan Zihao and Wan Xiao were not back yet. In spite of it, Xiao Zhiming did not think too much about it since the people there were more normal teenagers. Ning Lanlan pulled Yun Jian to the side and told Yun Jian softly once they were there. Jian, if that Shan Zihao dares to pester you again, I'll definitely kill him for you. Ning Lanlan clenched her fists as she spoke, looking like she really wanted to kill Shan Zihao. Ning Lanlan had already recovered from her shock, but she was furious at Shan Zihao for having designs on Yun Jian. Yun Jian grinned, looking at Ning Lanlan's adorable face due to her anger. The zoo is closing soon. Let's go. It was already past 4 in the evening. The zoo here closed at 4:30 p.m. But Wan Xiao and the others aren't back yet? Anemo asked in surprise. Then Anemo puffed up her cheeks and said strangely, "It's so strange. It's almost 40 minutes. Why aren't they back yet? I think we should just ignore them and go on our own." Humph. Ning Lanlan suddenly spoke up and took Yun Jian's hand to lead her to the entrance of the zoo. "I think so too. I can tell that Wan Xiao and that man aren't good people. Let's leave on our own." And Mo also grumbled, then called for everyone to leave first. Xiao Jiming wanted to stay for a while, but Ning Lanlan persuaded him to leave in the end. The few of them had just staggered to the entrance of the zoo when a panting male voice came from behind them. "Why did you leave on your own? I've been searching the garden for a long time." Shan Zihao had caught up. Wan Xiao was also there. At this moment, the redness on their faces had not subsided, but looking at their faces, it was as if nothing had happened. Shan Zihao came up to Yun Jian as he spoke and stared at Yun Jian's exquisite face that he yearned for day and night. Shan Zihao's heart itched. Recalling Wan Xiao's body just now, he invited Yun Jian. "Yun Jian, do you want to go karaoke tonight?" Chapter 964. Si Yi's mellow, gentle, and slightly domineering voice came from the other end of the phone. Other than Ning Lanlan, everyone else present was stunned. "I'm at the zoo," Yun Jian replied with a faint smile with a press of her red lips. Si Yi and Yun Jian were both people of few words. It was only when the two of them were together that there was something to talk about. Looking at Yun Jian's rare smile, Shan Zihao could not help being dumbfounded. In his impression, Yun Jian only had one expression: aloof, indifferent, mysterious, and unfathomable. Just now, however, Shan Zihao suddenly realized that Yun Jian was actually so happy that she smiled from the bottom of her heart. No matter which version of her it was, it gave Shan Zihao the urge to press her beneath him. However, who was this man talking to Yun Jian on the phone? Was he as handsome as he was? Was he as tall as he was? Was he as popular among the girls in school as he was? There were only a handful of people as outstanding as him. Otherwise, why would Wan Xiao lie under him obediently just to beg for a little love from him? Shan Zihao felt like he was an emperor in ancient times where all women should fawn over him and beg for his favor. In spite of it, Yun Jian's avoidance time and time again hurt his pride. Therefore, before Yun Jian hung up the phone, Shan Zihao could not help questioning Yun Jian. "Yun Jian, who is he?" His tone sounded like he was someone to Yun Jian. Even Yun Jian could not help looking down, but Yun Jian ignored him. On the other end of the phone, Si Yi heard Shan Zihao's voice. His thin lips that were pressed against the phone sank slightly. "Xiao Jian, come out," he said as he walked out of the zoo's entrance. Si Yi spoke. Just as Si Yi spoke, Shan Zihao questioned Yun Jian again in a heavy tone as if he had caught the adultery between Yun Jian and Si Yi. "Yun Jian, tell me, who is he?" "Are you crazy? Don't act like you're close to Jian Jian. You have nothing to do with her." When Ning Lanlan heard Shan Zihao's misleading tone and recalled what Shan Zihao and Wan Xiao had done earlier, she roared at Shan Zihao furiously. She then chuckled coldly at Shan Zihao. "Let me tell you, Jian Jian is already taken. A scumbag like you doesn't deserve her." The word scumbag enraged Shan Zihao. Shan Zihao wanted to pull Yun Jian as he said, "Yun Jian, I really like you. Besides, does he treat you as well as I do? Is he as I am? Is he as sincere as I am? I'm..." Just as Shan Zihao was about to say something, a tall silhouette suddenly walked in from the zoo's entrance. Dressed in a black leather jacket, Si Yi was walking in from outside the zoo with a grim expression. The zoo's conductor wanted to ask for the entrance fee but was stunned by Si Yi's glare, so he did not go over to ask for it. Just as Si Yi entered, he saw Shan Zihao reaching out to grab Yun Jian's hand. Shan Zihao wanted to grab Yun Jian wholeheartedly but was stopped by a large hand. Si Yi stopped Shan Zihao's hand with one hand and looked down at Shan Zihao, who was half a head shorter than him. He gripped Shan Zihao's wrist, causing it to crack. "You want to touch my woman? Do you think you're worthy?" Chapter 965. The moment Si Yi appeared, his handsome face made everyone gasp. There was actually such a handsome man in this world. Si Yi's every move made all the women present gasp. Most of the women present merely glanced at him from afar, and did not have any other thoughts. However, Shan Zihao could clearly see Si Yi's handsome face. He was so handsome and charming. Shan Zihao was probably not even a millionth of Si Yi's looks. Although Shan Zihao thought so in his heart, he would never admit it. Shan Zihao was being stepped on by Si Yi. Si Yi was stomping on Shan Zihao's abdomen, causing Shan Zihao great pain. Shan Zihao was not someone who could endure such pain. Shan Zihao struggled with all his might, but Si Yi treated him even more cruelly. Si Yi lifted Shan Zihao's hand just as he was about to grab his leg. Then, he bent down and grabbed Shan Zihao's collar, pulling him up from the ground. Shan Zihao was not as tall as Si Yi and had curled up into a ball after that kick. When Si Yi pulled him up, Shan Zihao was almost paralyzed. Compared to Si Yi, Shan Zihao was in an extremely sorry state. "Do you know the consequences of your actions?" Si Yi asked in a menacing tone, but the words that came out of his mouth were instinctively terrifying. "Let go of me. You took advantage of my weakness. Haha, are you the man who was talking to Yun Jian? Let me tell you, she is mine. Hee, sooner or later, I'll make her mine." Before he could finish his sentence, Si Yi grabbed Shan Zihao's collar and flung him a few meters away. This throw almost made Shan Zihao spit out a mouthful of blood. Yun Jian, who was standing at the side, was also slightly gloomy. What Shan Zihao said just now was disgusting even to herself, let alone Si Yi. "Don't drag me into this. We have nothing to do with each other," Yun Jian said coldly to Shan Zihao. At this moment, due to the sudden appearance of Si Yi, no one noticed Mo Sen walking in from outside the zoo. Mo Sen stood outside the gate of the zoo and waited, but he didn't see Si Yi come out with Yun Jian. He stood there for a while and finally walked to the gate of the zoo. As soon as he entered the zoo, Mo Sen saw Si Yi's angry face and Shan Zihao, who had been thrown a few meters away by Si Yi. When Mo Sen saw that his young master had made a move, he instinctively jumped over the gate of the zoo's ticket gate and rushed inside. Hey, it's almost time to get off work, and you haven't bought a ticket, so you can't go in." Seeing this, the ticket inspector looked like he wanted to stop him. However, Mo Sen had already run over there. "If you want to touch my people, you don't have to live in this world anymore." Si Yi didn't need to look to know that Mo Sen was walking over. He put his hands in his pockets and stared coldly at Shan Zihao, who had been thrown to the ground by him. Everyone present was shocked by Si Yi's valiant actions. Even Shan Zihao, who had been flung away, felt that something was wrong. Why did Si Yi's tone sound like he would really kill him? Chapter 966. What Mo Sen did the most these few days was to cripple people's genitals. Those who wanted to bully Chen Sini the last time were crippled by Mo Sen after he obeyed Yun Jian's orders. Mo Sen thought that he was pretty good at crippling people's genitals. Was Mo Sen, one of the 4 leaders of an Hun group, good at crippling people's genitals? Cough. When everyone heard Mo Sen calling Si young master, they widened their eyes in shock. Young master? Was there such a title now? Just as everyone was thinking about it, Si Yi pressed his lips together and said, "Kill him." Kill him. Si Yi's words were neither heavy nor light, but there was a sense of seriousness to them that had never been felt before. It felt different from a joke. Once Shan Zihao heard that Si Yi was going to kill him, he got up from the ground no matter how much pain he was in from the toss. He held his chest and shouted at Si Yi. "How dare you? If you dare to kill me, my dad will arrest you immediately. My dad is the chief of Longmen City's police station." Shan Zihao said fiercely with a hand on his chest. To be honest, Shan Zihao was indeed frightened by Si Yi's words. Shan Zihao looked like he was really afraid that Si Yi would kill him. Once they heard that Shan Zihao's father was the chief of Longmen City's police station, they were not surprised. Shan Zihao dared to be so insolent because his father was the chief of police. It was no longer a secret to Ning Lanlan and the others. As for how Ning Lanlan knew about it, she used to look for Xiao Jiming often and Shan Zihao would often tell her about it. Shan Zihao had even thought about hitting on Ning Lanlan back then, but he dared not do it because Ning Lanlan had Xiao Jiming's protection. After that, Ning Lanlan found it odd that Shan Zihao did not do anything to her anymore. It was only today that Ning Lanlan found out that Shan Zihao had already extended his filthy hands to Wan Xiao. Si Yi wasn't afraid of Shan Zihao's words. He didn't even look at Shan Zihao as he walked over to Yun Jian. Under everyone's envious gazes, he walked over and held Yun Jian's small hand in his own. That gentle look was completely different from the one who had beaten Shan Zihao to death just now. Didn't you hear? My dad is the chief of the Longmen City Police Station. How dare you touch me? Do you want to go to jail? Shan Zihao raised his head proudly when he saw that Mo Sen was still walking towards him. Mo Sen took 2 steps towards Shan Zihao when he suddenly thought of something. Not long after CE walked into the zoo, the men who had been monitoring Shan Zihao took a few interesting photos and developed them on the spot. When Yun Jian participated in the foreign language competition in Foreign Languages High School, Shan Zihao had been flirting with Yun Jian every now and then. CE had already found out about it then and had asked Mo Sen to send someone to follow Shan Zihao. Mo Sen took out some of the interesting photos he had obtained from his pants pocket and tossed them onto the floor with a clatter. Young master, Phantom took some interesting photos just now. They're all here, Mo Sen said and cackled all of a sudden. Phantom was one of Mo Sen's men who had been sent to follow Shan Zihao. When the photos slid onto the floor and scattered around, everyone present saw the contents of the photos. They could clearly see that the main characters in the photos were Shan Zihao and Wan Xiao. Chapter 967. The background of the photo was a dense forest. However, it was not hard to tell that this was the forest where they were resting earlier. The main characters in the photo were undoubtedly Shan Zihao and Wan Xiao. Against the background of the forest, the man and woman in the photo had their backs facing the camera. However, from the camera, it could be seen clearly that the man and woman were naked with their buttocks exposed. Their private parts were tightly connected. Apart from that, one of the photos showed the heads of the horny man and woman. The camera's recording function was very clear. Hence, it was not hard to tell that the main characters were Shan Zihao and Wan Xiao just by looking at the photo. More importantly, Shan Zihao and Wan Xiao, who had gone to the toilet earlier, had not returned after a long time. They did not pay much attention to it at that time. However, now that they thought about it, everyone's faces turned pale. Especially Shan Zihao and Wan Xiao, who were the main characters. No! When Wan Xiao saw the photos, she was so frightened that she ran toward them. Even the makeup on her face seemed to have changed. Wan Xiao reached out with her trembling hands and grabbed all the photos. She tore them into shreds. I have more here. When Mo Sen saw that, he took out a stack of photos from his pants pocket and tossed them to them. As one could imagine, Shan Zihao and Wan Xiao looked as if they had eaten such tea at that moment. Shan Zihao was so frightened that his face turned pale. However, his first reaction was to turn around and look at Yun Jian. Those who did not know better would have thought that there was something shameful going on between him and Yun Jian. Yun Jian, it's not like that. No, it's not like that. It's that B*T Wan Xiao who seduced me. I'm a normal man. That's why we... Heh. Shan Zihao's explanation was met with a cold smirk from Yun Jian. You don't have to explain it to me because we're not related at all. Yun Jian scoffed softly. Then she reached out and held Siyi's hand. Shan Zihao's life and death had nothing to do with her. That's right. It's just your own wishful thinking. Ning Lanlan even helped Yun Jian to add insult to injury for Shan Zihao. Compared to Ning Lanlan and Yun Jian, Xiao Jiming and the rest were completely unaware of the ambiguous relationship between Shan Zihao and Wan Xiao. Now that he saw it, he was stunned for a long time. Zihao you. Xiao Jiming also looked at Shan Zihao in disbelief. At this moment, Xiao Jiming was no less shocked than anyone else. Xiao Jiming and Shan Zihao had already been buddies for a few years. Initially, they became buddies because Shan Zihao was a good person. But at this moment, he realized that he was wrong. Emosen, get rid of him. Ce glared at Shan Zihao, then ignored him and handed the matter over to Mo Senator. Actually, he had already given Shan Zihao a chance, but Shan Zihao had rejected it. Yes, young master. Mo Sen nodded. Then, Ce held Yun Jian's hand and walked out of the zoo. After offending Ce, Shan Zihao's future was basically ruined. Mo Sen would definitely not go easy on him. In the end, Mo Sen did not kill Shan Zihao because of Xiao Jiming's request. Of course, the biggest reason why Mo Sen did not kill Shan Zihao was because they were in Country Z. Country Z was a country ruled by law. It was inconvenient to kill people here. However, Emo Sen's way of handling things could guarantee that Shan Zihao would not dare to have any improper thoughts about Yun Jian for the rest of his life. Seeing Ce leaving with Yun Jian, Ning Lanlan and the rest quickly followed. However, Ning Lanlan bade farewell to Ce and Yun Jian at the entrance of the zoo. Chapter 968. Ning Lanlan watched as Ce pulled Yun Jian's hand into the car before closing the door and stepping on the accelerator. They left the zoo with Yun Jian. Wow, Jian Jian is so happy. I really hope Jian Jian can stay so happy. Ning Lanlan couldn't help shaking her head as she looked over. Of course, her words were laced with uncontrollable envy. Ning Lanlan was envious, but it did not mean that she envied Yun Jian for having Ce. She was different from other girls. She was envious because she wanted the person she liked to love Yun Jian as much as Ce did. However, Ning Lanlan knew that her senior Jiming had always treated her as a younger sister. Even so, Ning Lanlan did not want to give up. Ce drove the Lamborghini on the road with Yun Jian. When they passed by a cake shop just now, Yun Jian asked Ce to stop the car so she could buy a small cake. She knew that Xiao Yunju, Duan Li, and Duanya loved cream cakes. Although it was no one's birthday today, Yun Jian still picked a strawberry cake to bring home. It was a 3-day-long holiday for the Qingming festival, so she could have some fun at home. Just as she got home with the cake, Xiao Yunju, Duan Li, and Duanya ran out chasing after each other. Jejie Ce Gij. Xiao Yunju, Duan Li, and Duanya greeted respectively when they saw Yun Jian and Ce. This cake is for you guys. Yun Jian smiled and passed the cake to Xiao Yunju. Wow! Jejie, you're the best. Xiao Yunju took the cake happily. Your Ce Gij bought the cake, Yun Jian added with a smile. Ce Gij is the best. Xiao Yunju held the cake with a grin. Yun Jian smiled awkwardly. Why was she the best while he was the best in Xiao Yunju's heart? Before Yun Jian could think about it though, Xiao Yunju went to Ce and said to Ce in a coquettish tone, Ce, Gij, you said you'll take us to the amusement park. How about tomorrow? Sure. Ce agreed without hesitation. Yay! Cheatsy, you're awesome. Ce, Gij is going to take us to the amusement park. Xiao Yunju tugged on Duan Li's hand happily and danced excitedly. As they chatted Duan, and Duanya had Duan and Duananya. Ce, on the other hand, held Yun Jian's hand as they went downstairs. Just as they reached the staircase, Yun Jian saw Yun Yi who was standing not too far away. Brother, Qing Yu's back tonight. She got off at Longmen City's train station. I'll go pick her up. Do you want to come along? Yun Jian recalled when she saw Yun Yi. Just as Yun Jian finished, Yun Yi answered, yes. After telling Yun Yi about it, Ce dragged Yun Jian to Yun Jian's room. Yun Jian was puzzled as to why Ce had dragged her to her bedroom. Had they not been going to his bedroom all this while? Yun Jian did not think too much about it. Just as they entered the room, Ce's domineering aura engulfed them. Steadying himself, Ce pushed Yun Jian onto the bed. Yun Jian felt her heart clench. She felt it clearly. The change in her heart. In the past, her heart was closed and no one could enter her world. Now, however, her heart was filled to the brim with him. Yun Jian was about to kiss Ce back when Ce pulled out a transparent bra from behind her. As Ce held it, he suddenly went below her earlobe and whispered, Xiao Jian, do you want to wear it for me? Chapter 969. Yun Jian remembered that she had kept it in the cupboard but took it out again out of curiosity. Although she was not wearing it, she could not help taking a few more glances at it. When Qin Yiru called her for dinner, she did not hide the underwear back in the cupboard. Yun Jian had been wondering why Ce had pulled her into his bedroom just now. In the past, he had always pulled her into his bedroom. It was only now that Yun Jian realized that this was Ce's plan. Just as Yun Jian thought about it, her dark eyes still looking up, Ce's voice came from above again. Xiao Jian, you're distracted. As he spoke, Ce's breath was already on her neck. His slightly panting breath blew against her neck as his lips curled up slightly, his tone softening. You're so beautiful like this. So beautiful that. He wanted to meld his Xiao Jian into his bones so that she could only be his for the rest of her life. In spite of it, Ce did not say the latter part. After that, Ce tilted his head and his lips touched Yunjian's neck softly. Yunjian shuddered from the touch. She pushed Ce with her lips pressed together, but she did not push him away. Speak properly. I'm going to the train station to pick up Qing Yu. Get up quickly, Yunjian said and pushed Ce again. Her eyes kept darting to the side as a blush crept across her cheeks. She dared not stare at him. She could clearly feel that a certain part of him was swelling as he pressed against her. With a gentle push from Yunjian, Ce stood up. She thought that Ce did not plan to do anything to her because he knew that she was going to pick up Qing Yu tonight. Just as Yunjian stood up, he suddenly grabbed Yunjian's hand and pulled her to press her back against the wall not far away as he held her head and nibbled on it. Once the kiss was over, Yunjian felt a chill on her chest just as she caught her breath. She felt a large palm spreading the hem of her shirt from her waist, bypassing her bra and kneading it into a ball. Yunjian's cheeks were flushed. Ce had already let go of her just as she was aroused. His Xiao Jian was still young. No matter how much he could not control himself, he could not do it now. Ce encircled Yunjian in a corner and slowly tidied up Yunjian's clothes before pulling her into his arms. His tall frame was about a head taller than Yunjian. Xiao Jian, you have to grow up quickly, Ce told Yunjian calmly. The hidden meaning in his words was enough to make one's imagination run wild. Amen. Yunjian agreed, but there was a flicker in her heart. What was she going to do when she grew up? She did not want that. Xiao Jian, I'm going out for a bit. When I come back tonight, I'll bring Xiao Zhu and the rest to your Uncle Ji's house for dinner. We'll come over together after you pick up Qing Yu. Qin Yiru's voice rang abruptly with the sound of the door being pushed open. Just as the door was pushed open, Qin Yiru saw Ce carrying Yunjian in the house. His tall figure was wrapped around Yunjian's petite frame. Even Qin Yiru blushed a little when she saw the scene. Qin Yiru was stunned for a few seconds before she closed the door and said awkwardly, I didn't see anything. Go on, don't mind me. As she spoke, Qin Yiru sprinted down the stairs. Yunjian, who was standing in the house, was stunned as well. She looked up at Ce for 2 seconds and tried to push him away, but he tightened his hold on her. She then said angrily, You're not allowed to enter my house without locking the door next time. Chapter 970. If anyone else had heard Ce's words, they would have blushed in embarrassment. Ce's words could easily be misunderstood. Nonsense. Yunjian snuggled into Ce's embrace, feeling the warmth of Ce's embrace and the temperature rising. Ce was just saying it. He really held himself back and did not do anything to her. Yunjian pressed her lips together as she snuggled into Ce's embrace. Her face was pressed against Ce's chest, but there was a faint warm smile in her eyes. At this moment, her smile was not one of mockery. It was a knowing smile that came from the depths of her heart due to joy. Suddenly, she felt her head sink. Yunjian was snuggled into Ce's embrace. She could clearly feel Ce's hand on her head and gently caressing it as if it was the most precious thing to him. Yunjian did not have a driver's license after all. The security on the roads was getting better. Although it was not as good as the modern era, it was already very good for 1999. There would be traffic police patrolling the roads from time to time as well. To be safe, Yunjian let Ce drive on her behalf. She even called Yun-Yi along when she left. Yun-Yi sat in the back seat of the Lamborghini sports car. There was only a small space in the back seat, but Yun-Yi did not find it cramped at all. He only wanted to see Qing Yu now. How could he care about this? Are we there yet? Have we reached the train station? Yun-Yi poked his head out and looked left and right, looking like a monkey in a hurry. Not yet, we'll be there soon. Yunjian pressed her lips together and smiled faintly. When they reached the train station, Yun-Yi wanted to get off before the car stopped. Yunjian then accompanied Ce to park the car. There were not many cars in this era, and sedan cars were even rarer at the train station. Yunjian accompanied Ce and quickly found the bus stop. By the time Yunjian locked the car and walked to where Yun-Yi had alighted from with Ce, Yun-Yi had already returned with Qing Yu's luggage. Sister Jian. When Qing Yu saw Yunjian, she tossed her backpack to Yun-Yi and dashed toward Yunjian. Yunjian gave Qing Yu a big hug and asked with a smile, How have you been at home recently? Very good. Qing Yu had already wriggled out of Yunjian's embrace. As she spoke, She picked up the backpack that had been tossed to Yun-yi and walked forward while holding Yun-jian's hand with a grin. Yun-yi, who was standing behind and helping to carry the backpack as soon as he got off the car, lowered his eyes. He wanted to cry but had no tears. Why did he not see Qingyu pouncing on him like she had hugged Yun-jian just now? Yun-yi held Qingyu's luggage with one hand while he rubbed his head with the other. He could not figure it out, so he decided to stop thinking about it. The four of them went straight to Gu Yunjian's house. Chapter 971. Gu Xian caressed his short black hair boldly and chuckled before asking in a silly manner, "What do you think? Does this hair color suit me? Is it cool?" As he spoke, Gu Xian struck a dashing pose as if he was the most handsome person in the world. However, everyone knew that Gu Xian was just joking. Cool. Bro Gu Xian, this style suits you very well. Even Yun-yi exclaimed. That was true. Anyone who had seen Gu Xian's style in the past would think that Gu Xian's current style was not bad. Hee. Gu Xian scratched his head in embarrassment after being complimented by Yun-yi. Let's go in then. I think Mom has already prepared dinner. Yun-yi chuckled. All right, let's go in. Gu Xian quickly led the way when he heard that dinner was ready. Yunjian and Ce walked at the back. Yunjian was not in a hurry as she watched Gu Xian wrap his arm around Yun-yi's shoulders like they were brothers, walking together harmoniously. Right. We have a flower bed at home. It must be blooming now. Do you want to go take a look? Gu Xian was halfway there when he suddenly remembered this. Then he remembered that all girls liked flowers. Seeing that Yun-yi had brought Qingyu back, he could guess something even if he did not ask anything. Hence, he blurted out. Wow, you have a flower bed at home. Let's go take a look now. Yun-yi was just worried that Qingyu had just come home and had nothing to give her. She was thrilled when she heard Gu Xian say that they had a flower bed at home. Let's go, I'll lead the way. Gu Xian grinned and led the group to the flower bed. Spring was indeed the season when everything came back to life. Gu Yunjian's villa was extraordinarily large. The flower bed covered an 8-mile radius and it was extraordinarily beautiful. Yun-yi had already put down her luggage and ran to the flower bed to pick flowers for Qingyu to please her. Since it was spring, the sun set later than it did during winter. The sun was hanging sideways in the sky, leaving a sliver of sunset behind. Since the flower bed was huge, Yun-yi led Qingyu to the center of the flower bed. When they came out, the sky was already dark. Yunjian sat on a big rock while Ce stood beside her. His long fingers twirled around Yunjian's hair, playing with Yunjian's hair as his interest was piqued. He liked everything that belonged to his Xiao Jian. When Yun-yi and Qingyu came out of the flower bed, Qingyu was holding a bouquet of colorful flowers. It was only then that the group went home. Just as they reached the villa's entrance, a luxurious Rolls-Royce was parked outside. Rolls-Royce luxury cars were rare to begin with. What more in 1999? In spite of it, Gu Xian's eyes twitched when he saw the Rolls-Royce. This is a Rolls-Royce? Even Yun-yi was stunned. Yunjian narrowed her eyes. Just as she did so, she saw Gu Xian dashing into the house like a gust of wind. Yunjian and Ce quickly went to stand at the entrance. Inside the house, there were two people standing in front of Qin Yiru. One of them was a middle-aged woman who looked elegant and poised. She was holding a bald man who was half a head shorter than the middle-aged woman as they met eyes with Qin Yiru. Chapter 972. Mother? Gu Xian's mother? In other words, Gu Yunjian's ex-wife? Yunjian narrowed her eyes. Gu Junjian hadn't returned home yet, probably because he was too busy in the army. Gu Junjian would come back in the evening, but it should be a little late. In spite of it, Yunjian felt an indescribable sense of disgust when this elegant middle-aged woman was holding onto a bald man who was shorter than her and was even fatter and decked out in gold and silver. Although she didn't know why Gu Xian's mother would come back, Yunjian had a feeling that something bad was going to happen. Aha! After hearing Gu Xian's shout, Gu Xian's biological mother, who was this graceful middle-aged woman, responded to Gu Xian with a flat tone. It was as if she saw Gu Xian, no different from seeing a stranger on the side of the road. From this, it could be seen that Gu Xian's biological mother didn't treat Gu Xian as her own son at all. Yun Jian also clearly saw that when Gu Xian saw his biological mother looking back at him with such a gaze, as if she was treating a stranger, his excited face instantly turned cold. Gu Xian's biological mother's surname was Hua, and her name was Yun. Hua Yun was Gu Yunjian's ex-wife, and also Gu Xian's biological mother. When she married Gu Junjian, it was only because the marriage was arranged by her family. As the saying goes, it was a marriage of equal social status. Therefore, Hua Yun and Gu Junjian had no feelings to begin with. In addition, Hua Yun couldn't stand that Gu Junjian neglected her because he was busy with the army, so she had an affair. As for Hua Yun's affair, according to the military marriage, she was supposed to be punished. However, the person she had an affair with was the short, fat, bald middle-aged man that Hua Yun was holding. This middle-aged man's name was Hu Chaochuan. Hu Chaochuan's uncle was an international business tycoon. He enjoyed a certain economic status in the entire world. Hu Chaochuan's uncle was the kind of person who could make the entire business world tremble with a snort. Of course, this was only for a portion of the people. Encountering someone more powerful than him, he could only bow his head in submission. Hu Chaochuan used his uncle's position to escape the punishment of Hua Yun's adultery. Gu Junjian was already considered one of the wealthiest families in Longmen City, but compared to Hu Chaochuan, they might not even be able to compare to the latter's finger. This was the difference between them. It was precisely because of this that Hua Yun betrayed Gu Junjian and abandoned Gu Xian to follow Hu Chaochuan. Now that he was back, there was indeed no good news. "Mom, why are you back?" Gu Xian's expression had calmed down as he asked Hua Yun. "I heard that Gu Junjian is getting married again. The bride status is lower, so I came back to see what kind of woman could make Gu Junjian marry a lowly woman without hesitation," Hua Yun said elegantly as she placed her right hand over her left. Hua Yun came from a prestigious family, so she carried herself with the aura of a rich family's daughter. Hua Yun had called Qin Yiru a lowly woman with vulgarities just now, but she was pretending to be noble at the same time. Due to Hu Chaochuan's high status, he was well known internationally. Therefore, Hua Yun spoke as if she was still in a good mood. She looked at her old friends as lowly trash, while she was like a phoenix among men. After all, in Hua Yun's opinion, Gu Junjian was one of the more promising ones among this group of people. Gu Junjian was not even on the same level as her modern husband, Hu Chaochuan. Chapter 973. Cheap woman, aren't you referring to yourself? Just when Hua Yun was confident that no one dared to refute her, Yun Jian's breezy words continued. Hua Yun had always thought that everyone present was defeated by her, which was why she had rushed back with her rich new husband, Hu Chaochuan, to watch Gu Junjian make a fool of himself. Especially when she saw that the wife who was about to marry Gu Junjian was such a weak and useless person, she laughed out loud right then and there. She sneered inwardly. In spite of it, she did not expect Yun Jian to jump out when she tried to belittle Qin Yiru verbally in an attempt to show off her nobility. When Yun Jian refuted her verbally, Hua Yun was stupefied. When she recovered, Hua Yun spoke to Yun Jian with a frown in an even more haughty tone. "Who are you?" With her usual arrogant attitude, Hua Yun snorted. Lowly creatures are indeed lowly. Gu Xian could barely stand Hua Yun's taunting. Gu Xian cut her off. "Mom, Auntie Qin and Xiao Jian aren't cheap as you say. They." He was about to retort when Hua Yun snatched the right to speak. "Gu Xian, whose son are you? Whose side are you on?" Hua Yun stared at Gu Xian in disbelief, only remembering then that Gu Xian was her son. "I'm Dad's son," Gu Xian answered after 2 seconds of silence with a frown. Gu Xian realized that it was not as difficult as he imagined to say it. What he said meant that he was subconsciously on Qin Yiru's side. "That's why they're my family now. At least they really care about me." Gu Xian seemed to think that it was not enough as he suddenly yelled at Hua Yun, his tone thick with disappointment. Hua Yun was stunned. She did not expect Gu Xian to stand up for Qin Yiru and criticize her. In spite of it, if Hua Yun had any remorse, she would not have done such a thing back then. After a moment of silence, Hua Yun held Hu Chaochuan's hand tightly. "Ha, I've really given birth to an ingrate. Inhumane." Hua Yun scoffed softly. Then she hooked her arm around Hu Chaochuan and turned around elegantly, leaving her back view to Qin Yiru, Yun Jian, and the others. Just as they were about to leave the place, Hua Yun's aside, she suddenly turned around and said, Remember to tell Gu Junjian that I'll attend his wedding, haha. Haha, I'd like to see what kind of wedding you guys can make. As she spoke, Hua Yun rolled her eyes. Hu Chaochuan, who was standing beside Hua Yun, put his arm around Hua Yun's waist. Hu Chaochuan, who was short, fat and bald, pinched Hua Yun's thin waist and laughed lewdly. Baby, with their financial status, it'll be good enough if they can make a wedding that's 1,000th of ours. Hu Chaochuan's words attracted another round of mockery from Hua Yun. Thank you for your kind words. My house has a high threshold and we don't welcome any Tom, Dick, or Harry. Please bring a cleaner with you next time. I'm a clean freak. I don't like dirty things. Yun Jian forced a smile and looked coldly at Hua Yun and Hu Chaochuan, who were about to walk out of the mansion, as she said this calmly. After she finished speaking, Hua Yun and Hu Chaochuan were stunned, but they quickly reacted. Chapter 974. You. Upon hearing Yun Jian's words, Hua Yun turned around angrily, even forgetting her ladylike demeanor. However, just as Hua Yun turned around, Hu Chaochuan grabbed Hua Yun's hand. Then, Hu Chaochuan placed his fat hand on the back of Hua Yun's hand and took the opportunity to rub it a few times. Baby, don't be angry with people like this. Your health is more important. People like this are just jealous of our family's wealth. They're just good at talking. Let's go. Humph, when the time comes, we'll give them a big gift. Let them fight with baby. As Hu Chaochuan spoke, he walked away with Hua Yun, who was swaying her hips. Seeing Hua Yun swaying her hips as Hu Chaochuan took her away, Gu Xian's last bit of fantasy came to an end. He lowered his gaze and waited for Hua Yun to be helped into the car by Hu Chaochuan. The Rolls-Royce sports car gradually drove away. Only then did he let out a huge sigh of relief, his entire body completely paralyzed. Everyone present could feel Gu Xian's sorry state. Who wouldn't want their biological mother to love them, dote on them, and spoil them like normal parents? Gu Xian also wished for it. Unfortunately, his mother had never cared for him. Just as Gu Xian was feeling a little dejected, a pair of strong palms gently landed on his shoulders. Child, don't be sad. We'll be your family from now on. Qin Yiru's eyes shone. She looked at Gu Xian and comforted Gu Xian with a pair of eyes that seemed to be able to speak. Gu Xian only felt warmth in his heart. That's right, brother Gu Xian. We'll be your family from now on. Yun Yi also laughed and said. Under everyone's passionate gazes, Gu Xian finally nodded heavily. If Gu Xian's heart was completely cold when he saw Hua Yun leave without hesitation, then Gu Xian was like a pot of cold water that was boiling in a fire. After Gu Junjian returned home, nobody mentioned Hua Yun's arrival. After all, it was not a good thing. However, Yun Jian was secretly planning in her heart. Qin Yiru had never had a proper wedding in her life. She had lived the life of a rural woman all her life. Especially under Hua Yun's instigation, Yun Jian wanted to give Qin Yiru a grand wedding. She immediately contacted Snake Lizard and asked her to use her name as Kosha mercenaries to invite international business tycoons to appear on the wedding day of Qin Yiru and Gu Junjian. Of course, Qin Yiru and Gu Junjian didn't know about this. If they knew, it would be strange if they weren't scared to death. Yun Jian knew that her mother had always kept a low profile. Now, she just wanted to help Qin Yiru be high profile. A person's life was short. If she could be high profile, then she should be high profile. Perhaps it was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. The next morning, Yun Jian and Ce brought Xiao Yunju and the other two to the amusement park. The 3-day holiday of the Qingming festival was neither short nor long. During the holiday, Chu Ning and the others came back from the military academy once. Chu Ning also brought a lot of delicious food for Yun Jian. Other than that, nothing special happened. They went back to school immediately. This week, not only did Xiao Yunju school have a spring outing, even Yun Jian's school had one. Even Yun Yi's high school had a spring outing at the same time. Chapter 975. Although Yun Jian's school had a spring outing on the same week as Xiao Yunju and Yun Yi's school, it was not on the same day. Yun Jian's spring outing was on a Friday. The homeroom teacher had informed the class about the spring outing early and told them that it was the last spring outing for them in their junior and middle years. After the spring outing, There would be a May Day holiday and they would have to start preparing for the middle school entrance examination. The middle school entrance examination was the starting point that determined an ordinary child's future achievements. It was also the most crucial test in life that the teachers and parents talked about. Especially in 1999, when the economy was not as developed as it was now and there was no popular internet. Children had no way out and the only way to succeed was through the middle school entrance examination. Under the homeroom teacher's repeated emphasis, the students in the class were already numb to it. Chen Xinyi was still on sick leave, so she would definitely not come to activities like the spring outing. However, Zhang Xiaofan and Zhang Jian were there. When they queued up to board the bus to the location of the spring outing in the morning, Zhang Xiaofan and Zhang Jian fought to carry Yun Jian's backpack. In spite of it, the boys in the class did not say a word, especially when they found out that Yun Jian was slashing God from Team Monarch. They walked out of the classroom in high spirits. Some of them even bragged that Team Monarch slashing God was in their class, making the other classes envious. The location of the spring outing this time was a mountain in Longmen City called Xiaobao Mountain. Xiaobao Mountain was not really a mountain where treasures could be found, but there was a temple at the peak where one could pray to Buddha from the bottom of the mountain. Of course, the purpose of the school's spring outing, other than the fact that they only needed to pay the bus fare and not the entrance ticket, was also the most essential reason, and that was to exercise their bodies. Climbing from the bottom of the mountain to the peak was done by walking steps. There were at least a few thousand steps to climb from the bottom all the way to the top. Master, Grandmaster, slow down. I'm exhausted. Phew. Damn these damn stairs, oh my god. Zhang Xiaofan was carrying Yun Jian and Zhang Xiaofeng's backpacks. There were 3 backpacks, one on his back and the other 2 in his hands. He was so tired that he shouted at Zhang Xiaofan and Yun Jian as he walked. Zhang Xiaofan chuckled as he touched his nose and said, "Training your body. Good luck." By the time everyone walked up the stairs, it was already noon. The sun was shining brightly, and the weather was unusually hot. There were already many people standing at the top of the mountain, but just by looking at the uniforms, it wasn't hard to tell that other than Yun Jian's school, there were also students from other schools here for the spring outing. Hey! Jian, you're here too? Yun Jian had just gone up the mountain when a cheeky girl walked toward her. Taking a closer look, it was Ning Lanlan. However, Yun Jian was not surprised. When she met Ning Lanlan back then, the latter had told her that her spring outing was coming soon and that her spring outing was happening today. It was just that Yun Jian did not expect her spring outing location to be the same as Ning Lanlan's. Yun Jian nodded with a squint. Why? Master, do you guys know each other? Zhang Xiaofan did not know Ning Lanlan, but he looked at her in surprise before asking Yun Jian. Master. Ning Lanlan walked over with a grin, shaking her head. She glanced at Zhang Xiaofan and answered, "Yeah, we met not too long ago." Heh. Chapter 976. Mo Sen had actually spread Shan Zihao and Wan Xiao's indecent photos in Ning Lanlan's school? Yun Jian raised a brow and pressed her lips together into a smile. It was a ruthless move, even more ruthless than killing Shan Zihao and Wan Xiao. Yun Jian pressed her lips together but her expression remained unchanged. It made sense though. How could Mo Sen, Siyi's subordinate, go easy on him? He must be as ruthless as he wanted to be. I heard that the school forced him to drop out. TSK. If you ask me, he deserves it. Ning Lanlan whispered into Yun Jian's ear with a grin. As she spoke, Ning Lanlan feigned happiness. Senior Jiming is finally not playing with Shan Zihao this time. Ah, Jian, I'm so happy. Just as Ning Lanlan said that, Zhang Xiaofan, who saw her whispering to Yun Jian, came up to them. What are you guys talking about? You're so excited. Haha, it's nothing. Ning Lanlan waved her hand with a chuckle. When she was done, she introduced herself formally to Zhang Xiaofan. I'm Ning Lanlan. Hello. Hello. Zhang Xiaofan smiled and nodded at Ning Lanlan before pointing at Yun Jian playfully. This is my master. As he spoke, Zhang Xiaofan did not forget to turn around and point at Zhang Jian. This is my dumb disciple, Zhang Jian. Haha. Just as Zhang Xiaofan finished his introduction, Zhang Jian was indignant. Master, why am I your dumb disciple? Because you look dumb, haha. Zhang Xiaofeng's ability to tease was still as good as ever. After standing there for a while, it was time for their respective schools to assemble. Then I'll get going first, Jian Jian. Ning Lanlan waved at Yun Jian and ran off when she heard that they were about to assemble. Yun Jian nodded and went back to the rest of her class. It would take some time to walk back to class, so Zhang Xiaofan and Zhang Jian followed along. The homeroom teacher, Teacher Yu, was already doing a head count. After counting, there were 3 people missing. She had just looked around when she saw Yun Jian and the other 2 walking over. Hurry up. We're just waiting for the 3 of you. Let's gather first. After we're done, we'll go and take a look. After that, you're free to do whatever you want, Teacher Yu said. Okay, teacher, we're coming. Zhang Xiaofan appeared to be very lively. The 3 of them walked in that direction. However, just as Yun Jian took a step forward, she suddenly felt a person jump out from the bushes. She already had a premonition before this person came out. The man was holding a machete. He rushed out from the bushes and fiercely stabbed towards Yun Jian. Teacher Yu and the others who were standing a distance away saw the scene and felt like they had just witnessed someone committing a crime. For a moment, everyone present was spooked. Some girls even screamed when they saw the scene. Yun Jian, run! Miss Yu shouted in fright when she saw what was happening. Just as Teacher Yu shouted, Yun Jian waved her right hand and grabbed the hand of the person who was sneaking up on her from the bushes while her other hand slashed horizontally, forcing the man to let go of the machete in pain. Yun Jian, on the other hand, had snatched the machete and pressed it against the neck of the masked man who had appeared out of nowhere. She asked with a raised brow, "Who sent you to assassinate me?" The students who were standing a distance away were scared out of their wits. Chapter 977. A moment ago, Yun Jian and Zhang Xiaofan were walking towards them. However, in the next second, a criminal suddenly appeared from the bushes and stabbed at Yun Jian with a knife. How could the people present not be afraid when they saw this scene? They all screamed in surprise and stepped back. However, when they saw how Yun Jian had subdued the thug and snatched his saber to hold it against his neck, those who stood on the peak of Zhaobao Mountain who had witnessed what Yun Jian had done were rooted to the spot in shock. Zhang Xiaofan and Zhang Jian were also stunned. On the contrary, Zhang Xiaofan had been trained by Yun Jian, so his reaction was quite fast. Seeing Yun Jian put the knife against the neck of the black-masked person who wanted to assassinate Yun Jian, Zhang Xiaofan walked over and kicked the back of the person's knee. The person was forced to kneel on the ground with a plop. "How dare you assassinate my master? Damn it, do you want to die?" Zhang Xiaofan said as he kicked the person hard again. At the same time, Zhang Xiaofan pulled off the person's black mask. After the black mask was pulled off, the person's face was revealed. Yun Jian narrowed her eyes. She saw that the assassin, who was dressed as a man and had short black hair, was actually a woman. It could be seen from her face that she was quite young. She was even about the same age as Yun Jian. Zhang Xiaofan kicked the girl. The girl didn't say anything and just turned her face to the side. Yun Jian still had the machete against the girl's neck. Seeing that the girl didn't say anything, she pressed the machete against the girl's neck. "If you don't say anything, I'll kill you." These words weren't persuasive at all, but in everyone's ears, they were convincing. The girl who wanted to assassinate Yun Jian looked to the side and didn't say anything at all. She didn't seem to believe that Yun Jian would kill her. However, when Yun Jian held the machete and slowly pressed the knife against the girl's neck as she spoke, the girl panicked. The knife went along the girl's neck and fiercely cut a certain part of her neck. A piercing pain came. The girl even felt the blood slowly dripping down from the pain. The girl was so scared that she turned her head and shouted at Yun Jian, "You really dare to kill me?" The girl said so confidently as if Yun Jian wouldn't kill her. "Do you think I dare or not?" Yun Jian narrowed her eyes and smiled. Her smile had a majesty that made people tremble in fear. With that, Yun Jian tightened her grip on the knife and continued to cut the girl's neck without hesitation. The teachers and students who were standing afar were scared half to death by Yun Jian's action. Although Yun Jian was Team Monarch/God and an advanced Special Forces soldier and it was no longer a secret, everyone was still scared when they saw it. Moreover, even if Yun Jian was an advanced Special Forces soldier in the military, she shouldn't be killing people for no reason. Don't, I'll tell you." The girl finally felt fear and she quickly spoke. Upon hearing that the girl had taken the bait and achieved her goal, Yun Jian stopped in time. She was sure that she would have slit the girl's neck if she was a second later. Yun Jian stopped and narrowed her eyes into a strange arc. She then said to Zhang Xiaofeng, "Bring her to the edge of the cliff. We'll talk there." Chapter 978. Seeing that Yun Jian had asked Zhang Xiaofeng to carry the girl to the edge of the cliff, the teachers and students didn't dare to move. After all, Yun Jian was a member of the military. What had just happened might have involved some military secrets, so the people present didn't dare to follow them. Zhang Jian gathered his 3 backpacks. He was a good boy and didn't want to follow Yun Jian and Zhang Xiaofeng. At the edge of the cliff, Yun Jian crossed her arms and looked at the girl in front of her. She narrowed her eyes, but there was a strange light in them. There was no one at the edge of the cliff. Because it was a steep cliff, no one dared to stand here to play. After all, if they fell off the cliff, it wouldn't be a laughing matter. "Speak." Yun Jian crossed her arms and looked at the girl in front of her. She raised her eyebrows slightly as she spoke. The girl stood at the edge of the cliff. She covered the wound on her neck and pursed her lips. "You should have tested my abilities just now. I'm very confident that I can kill you before you can escape, so if you're smart, you better not play tricks in front of me." Yun Jian crossed her arms, but her lazy aura made people have no choice but to re-evaluate her. The girl obviously had other thoughts, but when Yun Jian said this, she paused. "My name is Gu Nianji." The girl finally spoke slowly. However, as soon as the girl said this, Yun Jian suddenly flipped her hand and threw a knife at her. The girl who called herself Gu Nianji was slightly stunned by Yun Jian's throwing knife. She turned around and dodged Yun Jian's knife. Because she was standing at the edge of the cliff, Gu Nianji dodged the knife, but her foot stepped on the gravel at the edge of the cliff. Her foot loosened, and she almost fell off the cliff. Gu Nianji had some strength. She steadied herself and steadied her foot to prevent herself from falling off the cliff. However, when Gu Nianji saw that some of the gravel under her feet couldn't withstand her weight and were rolling down the cliff, she panicked and turned to look at Yun Jian. However, she saw that Yun Jian was still in the same lazy posture as before. However, what was different from before was that Yun Jian's eyes were sharp now. She looked at Gu Nianji fiercely, and in the next moment, she shouted, "Don't try to stall for time. I'll give you 1 minute to tell me your identity and purpose. Otherwise, I'll kill you." Yun Jian's tone was very domineering. At the same time, she flipped her hand and several throwing knives appeared in her palm. She looked at Gu Nianji coldly. "Don't play any tricks on me. You know it's useless. Did you hear what my master said? Don't try any tricks. It's useless." Zhang Xiaofeng shouted at Gu Nianji. Gu Nianji's eyes darkened. She knew that she had to tell them everything if she wanted to save her life. However, looking at Yun Jian's expression, if she didn't tell them, she probably wouldn't be able to escape death. Therefore, Gu Nianji pursed her lips and said, "I'm an assassin from the Yulong continent. Someone posted a notice on the Yulong continent's leaderboard. Killing you will give you a large sum of money. So you tore up the notice and accepted the mission?" Yun Jian finished Gu Nianji's sentence. Gu Nianji gulped and nodded. "That's right. That's why I'm here to take your life." The Yulong continent was a brand new continent. There were also assassins in the Yulong continent. Just like on Earth, the professions on Earth also existed in the Yulong continent. The only difference was that the people of the Yulong continent dressed like in ancient times. Moreover, the people of the Yulong continent could cultivate. Of course, when the people of the Yulong continent came to Earth, they couldn't use the abilities of the Yulong continent. This was because once they did, they would be punished severely, just like Lan Su. Chapter 979. Yun Jian's slightly squinted eyes cleared instantly as her lips curled up. She looked even more alluring when the sun shone on her in the middle of the day, especially in the middle of the day where the sun was blazing like fire. "I've already told you. Can you let me go now?" Gu Nianji said to Yun Jian. Her tone sounded as if it was only right. "Do you really think I won't kill you if you tell me?" Yun Jian smiled. She was suddenly interested in this girl named Gu Nianji. "Then what do you want? I'm just a third-rate assassin. I'm not a powerful person in the Yulong continent. It's useless even if you kill me," Gu Nianji mumbled. Yun Jian narrowed her eyes but did not answer her directly. Zhang Xiaofeng, on the other hand, was stunned as he watched the scene unfold. Yulong continent? What was that? Why did he not understand a single word that his master said to this girl today? Just as Zhang Xiaofeng thought of this, Yun Jian shouted at him, "Go tie her hands up and take her down the mountain." Okay. I love tying people up. As Zhang Xiaofeng spoke, he ran back to where Zhang Jian had been standing and took out a rope from the bag that Zhang Jian had helped him carry. He always carried this rope with him. This time, it could finally be of use. Zhang Xiaofeng chuckled. He ran back and immediately tied Gu Nianji's hands up, then used the rope to pull her. Gu Nianji was from the Yulong continent. Even if she did not have the cultivation power of the Yulong continent, her combat ability was not strong. Therefore, Zhang Xiaofeng tied Gu Nianji up easily. Don't tie me up like this. How can I complete the mission if you tie me up like this? Gu Nianji struggled for a while, but she was quickly tied up by Zhang Xiaofeng. Do you think I'll let you kill master? Ha ha ha, little girl. Dream on. Humph. Zhang Xiaofeng tugged at the rope. Zhang Xiaofeng tugged at Gu Nianji. She snorted and turned her head away, ignoring Zhang Xiaofeng. Because of Gu Nianji's appearance, Yun Jian and Zhang Xiaofeng applied not to participate in the following group activities. The homeroom teacher had no choice. After all, Yun Jian was an advanced special forces soldier. More importantly, everyone present had witnessed Gu Nianji's failed assassination attempt on Yun Jian. What if Gu Nianji assassinated Yun Jian? Therefore, considering this point, the teacher didn't dare to say anything more. All the students in the class followed the class around. Yun Jian asked Zhang Xiaofeng to tie Gu Nianji up with a rope and make her stand where she was. Finally, after the spring outing ended, Yun Jian asked Zhang Xiaofeng to drag Gu Nianji down the mountain with a rope to prevent her from running away. Gu Nianji groaned the entire time, but she didn't do anything else. When Yun Jian reached the foot of the mountain, she saw Qingyu, who was standing not too far away. Qingyu had grown her hair long recently. Her beautiful black hair flowed elegantly in the wind. Qingyu was, of course, summoned by Yun Jian. Just as she saw Yun Jian and the others coming down the mountain, Qingyu came over and greeted Yun Jian with a nod. "Sister Jian." Yun Jian nodded and pushed Gu Nianji to Qingyu. "I'll leave her to you. Discipline her well." "Oh my! What right do you have to hand me over to her to discipline? I'm not your..." Gu Nianji was indignant the moment she heard this. She had only just finished her sentence. Yun Jian cut her off. "Because you're my captive now." Chapter 980. Sister Jian, don't worry. Leave her to me. Heh. I'll definitely teach her a good lesson. Qingyu chuckled and tugged at the rope that bound Gu Nianji's hands, dragging her away. Qingyu was here to take Gu Nianji away. Yun Jian did not plan to kill Gu Nianji. She planned to keep her here. Although it seemed risky to keep Gu Nianji alive, Yun Jian thought that she could get something out of the girl. She had a feeling that Gu Nianji was not as simple as she seemed. "Master, can I ask, where is the Yulong mainland that you guys were talking about just now?" Zhang Xiaofeng asked after some hesitation. Yun Jian turned to look at Zhang Xiaofeng with narrowed eyes when she heard what Zhang Xiaofeng said. She paused for a moment before continuing. "A very fairy-like place. It's like a paradise." Yun Jian made up a random story. "There really is a paradise? I thought Tao Yuanming made it up himself." Zhang Xiaofeng exclaimed in surprise when he suddenly recalled a prose he had learned. "Maybe," Yun Jian answered ambiguously to Zhang Xiaofeng. By then, the students in the class had already come down from Zhaobao Mountain. The homeroom teacher, Teacher Yu, organized the students to stand together and do a head count. After that, the students got on the bus and went back to school. The spring outing ended just like that. To Yun Jian, other than Gu Nianji's appearance, there was nothing else worth reminiscing about. There must be a reason why Gu Nianji chose to ambush Yun Jian during the spring outing. After all, Yun Jian could not do anything to Yun Jian when she was in school. It was just that Gu Nianji did not expect Yun Jian to be so skilled. After the spring outing, it was back to the intense revision phase. It was already April. The senior high school entrance examination was usually 2 to 3 weeks earlier than other students who did not need to take the Gaokao, which was about half a month later. The middle school exams were usually held in the middle of June. Of course, The timing of the middle school exams differed from place to place. Longmen City's senior high school entrance examination began on June 18th and ended on June 20th. Therefore, from now on, there were only 2 months left for her to revise for the middle school exams. Therefore, during this period, the homeroom teacher, Teacher Yu, became very strict. The students had also entered the intense revision stage. As the days passed, Qin Yiru and Gu Yunjian's wedding day was approaching. Other than Yunjian saving Tang Qixuan's boyfriend in the zoo last time, Tang Qixuan went to Yunjian's house to thank her and bring some fruits. Nothing else special happened. In the military, Gu Junjian knew that Yunjian was about to take her middle school exams, so he did not arrange for Yunjian to go on any missions. Although Gu Junjian had already decided that Yunjian would go to the military academy, the middle school entrance examination was the most important exam in one's life. She still had to work hard to get a good score. There were still 2 months to the middle school exams, but the homeroom teacher asked the students to fill out a piece of paper to fill in their middle school exam aspirations. It was not yet time to fill in the actual middle school exam aspirations, but to motivate the students, the homeroom teacher asked them to write their own aspirations, stating their goals, which school they wanted to enroll in, and how many marks they had to achieve. Chapter 981. After filling in the application form for the middle school entrance exam and handing in this piece of paper, the bell signaling the end of school rang. It was a Friday, so dismissal was earlier today. All right, students who have filled in the application form and handed it in may dismiss. The last class was the class teacher, Miss Yu. She was still holding Yunjian's application form as she spoke to the class. Yunjian went back to her seat and left with Zhang Xiaofan and Zhang Jian. She had only taken 2 steps when Miss Yu's shout came from behind her. Yunjian, you haven't written down your target score. Your goal is Min City's military school. The school in Min City has requirements for results as well. Besides, going from Longmen City to Min City is considered a cross-city exam. The cutoff for getting into Min City isn't low. Miss Yu called out to Yunjian because Yunjian had not written down her target score for the entrance exam. It was just that a lot of things came out from the teacher's rambling. Yunjian turned to the side. She was already carrying her shoulder bag, but her eyes were on Miss Yu as she said with a smirk, "I'm not writing down the score." Yunjian dared to tell the class teacher that she was not writing down the score? Was she that arrogant? Was she challenging the class teacher? The students in the class shifted their gazes to Yunjian. Most of the students were afraid of their homeroom teacher, so when Yunjian spoke to the teacher in such a tone, the students were slightly taken aback. Why not? Even the class teacher was surprised. Because I have to go. When Yunjian said the latter half of her sentence, there was a sense of confidence in her tone that could not be ignored. She was confident and arrogant, but no one thought that Yunjian was spouting nonsense. Yunjian pursed her lips and slung her shoulder bag over her shoulder as she turned and walked to the back door of the class domineeringly. Perhaps it was because of her aura. Even Teacher Yu didn't make a sound as he watched Yunjian leave. After separating from Zhang Xiaofeng and Zhang Jian at the school gate, Yunjian headed home. Ce hadn't been home recently. He had returned to an Hun group, so Yunjian was bored alone at home. She had just walked close to the entrance of the house because the Dongruan family's villa was a group of villas. In other words, other than Dongruan's villa, there were other villas around it. Unlike Gu Yunjian's villa, there was only one family within a radius of 8 miles. As they approached Dongruan's villa, Yunjian saw her mother chatting with Dongruan's neighbors. The rich ladies who were chatting with Qin Yiru all came from well-to-do families. It was a coincidence that Qin Yiru got to know them. They thought that Qin Yiru was a rich lady, so they gathered together to chat. Since Qin Yiru was invited, she chatted with them as well. When she saw Yunjian, Qin Yiru greeted her directly. "Xiao Jian, you're back?" Qin Yiru asked. Mom." Yunjian nodded and gathered her bag. Her delicate and pretty face attracted the attention of the rich ladies around her. "Yiru, this must be your daughter? She looks pretty." A rich lady who stood beside Qin Yiru commented as she studied Yunjian. The lady got to know Qin Yiru first before introducing Qin Yiru to the other rich ladies. The lady who spoke had a husband with the surname Yang. Mrs. Yang was a nice person and there was no sense of distance between them. Qin Yiru nodded and said proudly, "Yeah, Xiao Jian is my daughter." Chapter 982. This rich madam was purely attracted to Yun Jian's beauty. Moreover, Yun Jian gave off the feeling that she was the daughter of an aristocratic family. Her temperament was similar. Moreover, the people who lived here naturally couldn't be poor. Therefore, this rich madam had the intention of marrying Yun Jian. Most importantly, this rich madam's son was already in his 20s. Because of his poor grades, he dropped out of school and stayed at home. He was always idling around. Her family had a lot of assets, so the rich madam's son went out to flirt with girls or bars. He was doing very well. Those women outside were all trying to get close to her son because of her family's money. Most importantly, those women were extremely poor. The rich madam didn't like them at all. Now that she saw Yun Jian, a beautiful young lady with good temperament, the rich madam immediately became interested. However, just as the rich madam finished speaking, Qin Yiru smiled and rejected her tactfully. I have always advocated for children to be free to love. Although this sentence didn't sound like an excessive rejection, everyone present could tell that it was a rejection. All right. What were we talking about just now? Let's continue. Haha. Mrs. Yang saw that the situation wasn't good, so she stood out to smooth things over. Qin Yiru looked at Mrs. Yang and revealed a grateful smile. All right. Free to love. Don't be too relaxed with your child. Don't let anything happen when the time comes. The rich madam said sharply. Although she didn't say it explicitly, her words implied that Qin Yiru was indulging Yun Jian so much that Yun Jian would cause trouble sooner or later. She might even get pregnant at a young age. Qin Yiru didn't like to hear this. Qin Yiru also replied symbolically, "My daughter. As her mother, I will take responsibility if anything happens to her." This sentence made the few rich ladies around them fall silent for a moment. Yun Jian, who was standing at the side and hadn't said anything, narrowed her eyes and curled her lips. The smile on her face didn't fade. Her mother was no longer someone who could be trampled on. At least Qin Yiru had learned how to fight back. The topic just now didn't embarrass the people present for long. After a while, the rich ladies began to chat again. At the mention of Yun Jian's age, the short rich lady who was less than 1.5 meters tall and wore a pair of 10-centimeter high heels covered her mouth with her hand and chuckled. Then the rich lady said to Qin Yiru, "My daughter is the same age as your daughter, and she's also in the same school as your daughter. I'm just not sure if your daughter knows my daughter." As she spoke, the rich lady did not wait for Qin Yiru to reply. She chuckled a few times and then boasted to Qin Yiru with a rather proud expression, "My daughter is ranked in the top 10 in Longmen First High School. It won't be a problem to get into the best high school in Longmen City." Boasting about their children was the most common topic of conversation among parents when they gathered together. The rich lady then asked Qin Yiru, "I heard that their school requires students to set goals. I wonder which high school your daughter applied to?" The rich lady was obviously boasting about her daughter's results and asked Qin Yiru in a tone that belittled Yun Jian. Her motive was to hear Qin Yiru say that Yun Jian's results were not as good as her daughter's. Yun Jian then looked up and answered faintly, "Min City Military School." Military schools generally had a high cutoff score, especially when they were admitted to other cities. The rich lady was stunned before she looked at Yun Jian in disdain. The cutoff score for military schools isn't low. Little girl, why would a girl like you go to a military school? That's where the boys go. Right, little girl, how are your results? The rich lady asked again. It's not high. Yun Jian blinked. The not high made the rich lady even prouder. She pressed, "How high?" Chapter 983. Yun Jian pressed her lips together under the madam's forceful pressure and spoke with a curl of her lips. The madam's gaze was fixed on Yun Jian, as if she wanted to bore a hole through Yun Jian with her stare. In fact, be it village women gathered together or wealthy madams of repute gathered together, what they talked about the most was their children. This madam had pressed Yun Jian to reveal her results just now because her daughter was in the same school as Yun Jian. They were in the same school and in the same grade. The madam's daughter seemed to be quite outstanding from what the madam had said. The madam had been pressing Yun Jian to reveal her results because she wanted Yun Jian to reveal her lousy results to show off her daughter's excellent results. Everyone present understood what the madam was trying to say when they heard what she said. Everyone knew why the madam had asked the question just now. In spite of it, Everyone was dumbfounded when they heard what she said. Even Qin Yiru did not expect Yun Jian to answer in such a manner. It's not high. She only got full marks for 4 subjects last time. Yun Jian's exact words were, full marks for 4 subjects was not high? Who else in the whole of Longmen Junior High School or even the whole of Longmen City could be like Yun Jian, getting full marks for all 4 subjects with such results? Was this a joke? No matter how brilliant a student was, there would be times when they made mistakes. The few wealthy madams present swallowed hard when they heard Yun Jian's words. The rich lady who wanted to use Yun Jian to brag about her daughter's excellent results was especially stunned when she heard that. Yun Jian's words were like a slap to the lady's face for what she had done just now, causing the rich lady's expression to darken. Oh my God, Yiru, your daughter is so outstanding. Mrs. Yang, who was closer to Qin Yiru, praised Yun Jian loudly and from the bottom of her heart when she heard her. Qin Yiru was not overly humble when she heard it. She knew that her daughter's results were good indeed. Of course, she had to be humble. Qin Yiru nodded with a smile. This child has done well. As mothers, we can only encourage her. Mrs. Yang was closer to Qin Yiru, so she nodded in approval. Yes, I like your daughter from the bottom of my heart. She's not like that rascal of mine, fooling around all day long. Mrs. Yang and Qin Yiru then exchanged pleasantries. Yun Jian, who was standing on the side, however, pressed her lips together and smiled. When Yun Jian caught a glimpse of the madam who was trying to use her daughter's results to beat her, she made an excuse and left. It was obvious that Yun Jian's words had embarrassed the madam. Thus, she quickly took her leave and left. Usually, people who could not find a sense of superiority in front of their peers would flee like this madam. There were many such people in reality. Let's go out together next time. Mrs. Yang invited Qin Yiru when she said goodbye to Qin Yiru. Sure. Let's make an appointment next time. We'll go out together. Qin Yiru said enthusiastically. After saying goodbye to Mrs. Yang, Qin Yiru brought Yun Jian home. She even mentioned Mrs. Yang midway and Qin Yiru praised her. Chapter 984. When she mentioned Mrs. Yang to Yun Jian, Qin Yiru said with a smile, actually, Xiaofan was the one who introduced Mrs. Yang to me. She said that she was worried that I'd be bored at home alone, so she introduced Mrs. Yang to me. Mrs. Yang is a housewife. Her husband earns quite a lot, so she usually stays at home to take care of the kids. Her life is pretty easy. When Xiaofan introduced Mrs. Yang to me last time, we got to know each other right away. Now that you're making so much money and I'm not working, it's pretty boring to stay at home, so I often find Mrs. Yang to chat with. Qin Yiru smiled as she spoke. Mrs. Yang was introduced to Qin Yiru by Dong Yuan. Dong Yuan was acquainted with Mrs. Yang herself. Qin Yiru, on the other hand, had already resigned. Back when Qin Yiru was working as a cleaner in New Cruise, her monthly salary was 1,500 yuan. She thought that it was exceptionally high. When she found out that her daughter was the director of New Cruise, Qin Yiru quit not long after. A part of the reason was Yun Jian and Gu Junjian. Yun Jian said that she would take care of her and Gu Junjian said the same. Both of them persuaded Qin Yiru for a long time before she resigned. Amen. Seeing how Qin Yiru was beaming, Yun Jian smiled as well. It was obvious that she was in a good mood. When Qin Yiru saw that her daughter was looking at her, she smiled and said, when you're done with your exams, we can ask Mrs. Yang and her family out to play. Yun Jian maintained her smile. They were already at the entrance of the house. For the next month or so, Yun Jian spent her time in school while her classmates entered the final sprint. After all, the exams were coming soon. It was impossible for them not to be nervous. Compared to the other students, however, Yun Jian was nonchalant about it. During this time, Su Ziqian's and Adam's injuries had improved greatly. Now, Su Ziqian had taken back control of Falcon Hall from Duan Lei. Very soon, the Leopard Gang, which used to be the #1 gang in Jia Province, was completely integrated into Falcon Hall by Su Ziqian. Of course, the leader of the Leopard Gang, Han Biao, continued to be in charge of the Leopard Gang's territory. It was just that the original Leopard Gang had become Falcon Hall. As for Han Biao and Su Ziqian's boss, it became Yun Jian. Everyone else came as usual. After taking over the Leopard Gang, Yun Jian could now be called the boss of the #1 gang in Jia province. All of this happened day by day. At this moment, the boss of the #1 gang in Jia province, the terrifying woman Rakshasa, was sitting neatly in class. A month or so of peaceful life passed as promised. Today was another Saturday. However, today was Saturday. Yun Jian sat in the classroom and waited for class to end. Because next Tuesday was May Day, which was a 3-day-long holiday, classes were held until Saturday. On Saturday, classes were dismissed like usual. When the afternoon bell rang, Yun Jian picked up her backpack. Chen Xinyi would be back for classes in a week. However, she was not back this week. Just as Yun Jian picked up her backpack after school, Zhang Xiaofan walked over and pointed at the back door of the classroom. "Teacher, someone is looking for you." When Zhang Xiaofan said that, Yun Jian turned around. Her sharp eyes happened to see the 6 people standing at the back door of the classroom. Chapter 985. It had been a long time since Yun Jian last saw Chu Ning and the others, aside from the last Qingming festival when the 6 of them came back. Even then, the 6 of them came and left quickly, not having much time to stay and talk to Yun Jian in detail. At the same time, Yun Jian roughly knew that life in the military academy was tough. Yun Jian had just picked up her bag. Usually, she was the quickest to react when school was about to end. Therefore, her classmates did not leave. Since Yun Jian was the slashing god of Team Monarch, her classmates usually paid more attention to Yun Jian's every move. Now that they heard Zhang Xiaofan telling Yun Jian that someone was looking for Yun Jian, the class turned in unison to look at the 6 people standing at the back door of the classroom. Chu Ning was almost embarrassed by all the eyes staring at her. Yun Jian, on the other hand, could clearly see that Chu Ning and the others were tanned compared to the last time she saw them. "Heh, Yun Jian, I haven't seen you for so long. I missed you so much." Chu Ning waved at Yun Jian when she saw Yun Jian looking at her. Yun Jian narrowed her eyes at the gesture and walked toward Chu Ning. "You're finally free to come back?" Yun Jian raised a brow and asked Chu Ning in front of everyone's curious gazes. "Yeah, Yun Jian. You've never been there, so you don't know. That godforsaken place isn't a place for humans. Look at my fair skin, it's as dark as charcoal now. TSK, it's terrible." Chu Xiongnan chimed in from the side. Yun Jian turned to look and saw that Chu Xiongnan face looked like it was smeared with charcoal. After months of being exposed to the elements and the scorching sun, Chu Xiongnan face was unbelievably dark. Yun Jian's lips quirked up in amusement. Chu Ning, who was beside Chu Xiongnan, popped up to knock his head as usual. "Silly Xiongnan, you're ugly to begin with. You're even uglier now, ha ha ha." Chu Ning did not feel that she had said anything wrong even though she had said something against her conscience. "Go, go, go." Chu Xiongnan grinned. The 2 of them were still bickering as usual. "Right, Yun Jian, we met a bunch of arrogant people over there. You don't know how arrogant they are. They're so annoying. They even compete with us every day." Chu said to Yun Jian when she thought of something else after she was done fooling around. Yes, it's that group of people. I really want to blow their heads off." Chu Xiongnan added. However, Lu Shiyun, Jiang Weiwei, Feng Xiaoran, and Hong Fan did not say a word. It was obvious that Chu Ning and Chu Xiongnan were chatterboxes. However, before Yun Jian could speak, a boy in the class jumped out in shock. He looked at Chu Ning and the rest, then at Yun Jian and asked in horror, "Are you guys members of the legendary Team Monarch?" Yun Jian was the killing god of Team Monarch. As for Team Monarch, everyone in the class knew that it was a team made up of people who were around the same age as the students present. However, such a team had now become the Advanced Special Forces. Such an achievement was a legend even in the Z country's military. Today, the other 6 members of Team Monarch came to the school to look for Yun Jian. All 7 members of Team Monarch were standing there. Chapter 986. Everyone in the class was shocked by the boy's words. So, the 6 people standing at the door were all members of Team Monarch? Haha, you know us? Chu Xiongnan, who was still joking around with Chu Ning, was shocked when he heard the boy's words. As the saying goes, the onlooker sees the game better than the player. Chu Xiongnan had no idea that his Team Monarch had become so popular. In the mouth of this boy, he actually used the word legendary. Are you guys really from Team Monarch? The boy did not answer Chu Xiongnan question. Instead, he looked at Chu Xiongnan in shock and disbelief. Heh! Chu Xiongnan tossed his hair and put on a cool expression. Of course. Remember, I'm the coolest in Team Monarch. Cool my asterisks, say that again and you'll go home and kneel on the washboard. Chu Ning pushed Chu Xiongnan away with a light push. Yun Jian stood in the classroom, but most of them had their eyes on her. There must be a lot to do in the military academy, right? Yun Jian looked at Chu Ning and the rest and asked after a long while. There are a lot of things to do. We thought we could come back once every 2 to 3 weeks, but it took us so long to come back for the second time. Lu Shiyun, who was standing beside Chu Ning and Chu Xiongnan, continued Yun Jian's words. Lu Shiyun had always been a calm person. But Yun Jian, if it's you, it won't be a problem for you to come home once a week. Once you're strong enough, you can apply to the school to do whatever you want, even if it means skipping class. Feng Xiaoran added from behind. Hearing their conversation, some of the students in the class were even more shocked. Yun Jian's ability was this strong? Haha, Yun Jian, I've been waiting for you to come to the military academy. Then, all the members of Team Monarch will be here. Chu Ning added. Hearing their conversation, some of the students in the class could not help but envy Yun Jian's friendship with Chu Ning and the rest. Why haven't any of you left after school? At that moment, the old teacher, Teacher Yu, who was passing by the classroom, noticed that none of the students had left the school. She found it strange, so she walked in from outside the classroom and asked. Due to the frequent incidents of gang fights in the school, the teachers could not help but be cautious. However, when Teacher Yu entered the classroom, a rowdy student immediately said, Teacher, they're members of Team Monarch. They're here for Yun Jian. Since Team Monarch was rather famous now, their homeroom teacher Mr. Yu had naturally heard of them. They came back from the military academy to visit Yun Jian. That's amazing. Another student jeered at the teacher. Teacher Yu turned to look at Yun Jian. In fact, Teacher Yu did not particularly like the fact that Yun Jian had lured the other members of Team Monarch to the school, namely Chu Ning and the rest who came to the classroom to look for Yun Jian. Therefore, Teacher Yu looked at Yun Jian with a frown. Yun Jian, since your goal is to get into the military academy, you should study hard. You can only get into the military academy if you're capable. Apart from studying, you should strengthen your body. Otherwise, the military academy's requirements are high and you're a girl. If you're too weak, they might not even accept you. In the end, Teacher Yu was trying to warn Yun Jian not to play any tricks. You're tuning in to the Xiaofan's Wuxia Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.